It's Friday. You know what that means.
Yeah!
Welcome, everyone, to episode 359 of everyone's favorite wrestling podcast, The F and Marks.
I'm Jay. He is.
I am the Brainless one. And it's incredible what a week we have. We just had a pay-per-view, a premium live event on Saturday.
Yes.
We had qualifying, or not really qualifying matches, but first round matches for the King of the Ring on Monday. A lot of great wrestling stuff. And
lots of people getting injured before King of the Ring. I'm wondering if, they're allergic to Saudi Arabia.
You know what? You're not the first person to say that, too. That's crazy. Because I've heard that from other people as well. I've seen it that there's a lot of people that don't want to be in Saudi Arabia this weekend. Or for the King of the Ring, I'm sorry.
That's a couple weekends from now. Yeah.
I had weekend on the brain. Yeah. But yeah, they had the qualifying matches for that, on Raw. They have more this evening on SmackDown.
Yep.
And yet, the person who has absolutely dominated the headlines this week is none other than the limousine riding, jet flying, kiss stealing, wheeling, dealing, son of a gun, 16-time world heavyweight champion, the Nature Boy, Ric Flair.
You know what? Instead of us speaking for him, we're going to let him speak for himself. So you could see Ric Flair in all his Ric Flairness.
Well, I did anything wrong except spend money and put this place over and bring my family and friends here. That is bad for you.
Why would it be bad for me?
Well, watch social media tomorrow.
I don't follow social media.
Well, you better.
I don't get stuck on my phone.
What's your name, nut job? Nicholas what? Nicholas Dickhead.
You don't have to call me like that, sir.
Don't ever talk.
You don't have to call me like that, sir.
You don't have to do this to me. If you humiliate me and my family.
I'm not humiliating you.
I didn't do one thing wrong. I walked into the bathroom.
And you cussed on my kitchen manager.
You're a kid high cost. Really? What world do you live in?
No, same world you
What
live
world
in.
do you How did I cost him? Did I touch him?
Cussing, you said cuss word.
I never said a cuss word. Is that his word against yours? I didn't say one cuss word.
Okay.
Okay, we're good. Let's go.
God. No, ma'am, I'm going to give you $1,000 tip just to say to him, kiss my ass. If you walk outside here,
You don't have to be disrespectful to me, sir. We're being
I
disrespectful
know.
to you.
You're disrespecting me.
How am I disrespectful?
Telling me to leave.
I'm not telling you to leave. We're just telling you that you're cut off.
Oh, I'm cut off and I'm not? Really?
Yes, sir. It don't matter if you're famous or not. It's the
Here,
same
ma'am.
experience.
Ma'am. Please give yourself $1,000 tip.
I'll let me do it.
$1,000 tip. This guy and I are so cool. She and I are cool. And along comes dipshit.
You don't have to call me like that.
I just said it.
I never did.
I'll say it again. You're a dipshit.
You have to get out of here right now.
Oh, I'm leaving. Trust me.
Thank God.
I won't come back again.
Thank God.
Come outside here and talk to me like a man.
I'm not going to do that because I'm on the clock.
You push you. You're on the pussy clock.
Go outside if you want.
I was going to stop.
Hey, you want to go out and talk with me in the park? He said, I don't work here. I don't give a shit. We'll talk to you. That's not doing it.
What's that?
You heard me.
What's that?
Please stop. Okay?
What did you just say to me? What did you just say to me?
Excuse me.
Oh, I brought my whole family here.
I need one of those little bar straws for big spoons.
You know how many?
Just one.
Just one?
I'm not mad. I have no reason to be mad.
Clearly, I mean, he was inebriated beyond all comprehension, slurring his words worse than Biden, and like with the tolerance Ric Flair has, I can only imagine how much he actually had to drink. And allegedly, this whole thing was over how much time the kitchen manager was in the bathroom. My favorite comment in the whole thing was when he said, I put this whole place over. Talking to a dude who's a kitchen manager who may not be smart to the wrestling business. And like, what the hell does that mean? I put this whole place over to my friends and family. And, you know, I'm going to, you know, he pulled the, don't you know who I am? I'm going to make you famous in the worst way on social media. You better watch out. And who was the person apologizing just a couple days later?
If you even want to call that an apology, but it was, yes, Ric Flair.
His version of it.
I have so many different thoughts about this. So many different thoughts. You said your favorite line was he's going to put them over on social media with the friends and all that stuff. My favorite was Nicholas what? Nicholas dipshit? I'm sorry. The first time I saw that, I had a belly chuckle. That's how hard I laughed on that. And I went back and watched just that part of it because it was that funny. Because I'm like, why? That's like the freaking middle school insults that you're throwing at him. You're calling him Nicholas dipshit. Oh, there you go. That was funny when you were like 12, 700 years ago, Ric Flair.
Wow, I mean, 700 years ago, you're giving him some credit. Yeah.
I'm being generous tonight.
Yeah.
Secondly, he was definitely inebriated. You could tell just the way he was sharing all over the place. You could tell that Ric Flair had a few too many, and it was like when they announced, and this was before the video was even released. When they announced that when Ric Flair was like, I spent $1,500 at this place, $1,500, and they came out and they said, $1,500 seems like an awful lot of money for a place that only sells pizza and garlic knots.
Right.
I don't know how big his party was. It doesn't matter how big his party was. Unless Cassius Ohno was there, you're not spending $1,500 on food.
Right.
My thing is that that's an awful lot of booze. Because even if, let's say, on the low end side, it was $500, or on the high end side, it was $500 for the food. That's still $1,000 on alcohol.
Yeah.
And you could tell he had a good portion of that $1,000 or however much alcohol he spent.
So Chris Brown, the $1,000 tip he was talking about adding an extra 1,000 to the waitress to call the guy a piece of shit. That was what the $1,000 tip was about. But the thing was, he just comes off as a drunken buffoon who just like, dude can't control himself. Just can't control himself. He's saying stupid crap. If he paid that much money, right?
Right.
If he legit had a $1,500 bill, and you're talking about a pizza restaurant, like you're saying, usually pizzas aren't that expensive, garlic knots aren't that expensive, wings aren't that expensive where you would get up to $1,500, right?
Right. Exactly.
If you were that good of a customer, wouldn't they say, we want to have this dude stick around a little bit longer, so maybe he'll ring up a bigger tab?
Right.
No. And I'm guessing there's stuff beyond this video where he was even a bigger douche than what we saw. I mean, to be kicked out, you know, they don't want to kick out a famous person. They don't want to kick out somebody who's spending that much money. But they do want to kick out an asshole who might be causing people to leave the restaurant. Flair alleges that he took pictures with everybody around the restaurant, and he had a couple of Michelob Lights and a couple of mixed drinks. I would say multiply that by 15 or 20, and then you're probably in the ballpark of what the Nature Boy had.
The fact that he came out before all of this was unleashed by the restaurant, all this footage and everything. The fact that he came out and played the victim because he was thrown out of an establishment after spending $1,500. And that's exactly what he said. Everything he said he was going to do in the video, he did. He went out there on social media. I don't think he thought that the owner of the place was going to go out there and be like, hey, I know that's what he said. Spent $1,500 and was very not nice, is the polite way of putting it, to my kitchen manager. He was drunk, so we had to throw him out. And that's when the whole $1,500 came in, and then the video came out. My favorite part of all of this was after he came out and said what he said, and then the restaurant came and rebutted what he said. Leave it to the dirt sheets to say, hey, why don't we let everybody know that 2 years ago in that last wrestling match that Ric Flair had, he actually suffered a heart attack.
I mean, he did fall asleep. That's probably why he fell asleep. I mean, I'm glad Andrade came in and plugged his pacemaker back in.
Do they really think? Yeah? Do they really think that dropping a story like that is the right story to drop for the circumstances? Because right now, whether people want to like it or not, this does not look good technically on AEW, because technically Ric Flair last worked in professional wrestling for
AEW, and he's still a contracted performer, I believe, even though he has not shown up since Sting's retirement match. Cousin Bobby, Nick said, yeah.
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 And Tim said, think of how much Ric Flair has to drink to slur his words. I'm not going to say that Flair has to drink as much as like Andre used to have to, or when Andre was getting back surgery and when they asked him about anesthesia, like, well, how much does it take you to get buzzed? About 4 quarts of wine. So basically a gallon of wine before he starts feeling anything. And that's how they judge the anesthesia. I'm guessing it's somewhere around that for Ric Flair. Maybe a little less.
The fact that Andre the Giant has the Guinness World Record for most beer consumed in one sitting is all you need to know.
I mean, that record is almost twice of Wade Boggs.
Yeah.
Boggs going from, Boston to Seattle and having, 72 beers?
I think it was 70 beers, yeah. 70 beers and a fried chicken.
And I believe he went 2 for 5 the next day or something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah.
But that's Wade Boggs. I mean, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if Andre the Giant. In fact, I think the day he set the record for most beer consumed was the day he flipped the dude's Volkswagen over. Andre was an absolute just legend in every sense of the word of legend. But since we're actually talking about a different legend. Is anybody having a worse week in wrestling right now than Ric Flair? He had this, like we said, we talked about the restaurant thing. The story comes out that he had the heart attack in his last match. I want to say last week we were talking about it, even if briefly, how he was complaining that the Dark Side of the Ring people who are doing the new 4-part series of the death of WCW, and he was butthurt that they didn't bring him in for that project.
I have a theory about this.
This guy stinks.
Yes. So most of the time when wrestlers do these sort of things, they get, I think with like Dark Side of the Ring, they get paid something. This is just a guess of mine. My logic brain going. Ric Flair thought he was so important to the Death of WCW documentary that the amount of money that the man was asking for, because he owes to like 20 different wives and spends $1,500 at a pizza joint, you know, over a couple hours. I bet he asked for so much money that the producers, aka The Rock, was like, "Oh, I'm not paying that dude that much money." And I bet he overpriced himself. And they're like, "You know what? We've got Sting, we got DDP, we got Kevin Nash. We have many of the main players. We could tell the story without that old drunk ass." I'm guessing that that's what happened. He asked for too much money and they said no. We have not heard that side because I'm guessing The Rock isn't going to come out there and bury Flair like that. Flair buries himself enough every week, but he's done an especially good job this week. Undertaker doesn't even bury people as well as this. Not even Triple H buries people as well as Ric Flair just buried himself.
But nobody buries people better than John Cena. And if you don't believe me, go watch the main event of SummerSlam 2010.
Yes.
Oh, by the way, I did find out that was John Cena's call.
Oh, yeah. Edge and Jericho were completely against it. They said, no, we could put this whole faction over in a new way. And you could have sat there and had Wade Barrett, become a new top heel. He ended up having that match against Cena at Survivor Series that year. And, that ended up completely being like the death blow to that Nexus group. If they would have won at SummerSlam, it would have been a different story. It really would have, I think, jump-started that, ignited that into something else. Into, like, as much as they were this cool new faction that was doing things we had not seen on TV in a while, and it was like the first time in a while that I think wrestling fans were like, oh, crap, this is interesting. And then, Vince did Vince things, and it ended up how it ended up.
For the record, I actually had a Nexus shirt in my WWE shop, the now defunct WWE shopped cart right before SummerSlam 2010. And if they had won, I was going to get the shirt. Because I did like Wade Barrett. I like David Otunga. I might be one, just like the Duke Joshi thing, I might be one of the few people that was a David Otunga fan.
Did you like the coffee mug? Was that the thing, or did you just like David Otunga? Undefeated Harvard lawyer.
The fact that he is a defense lawyer and has never lost a case, I have a lot of respect for him. He wasn't the greatest of all the guys in that whole Nexus thing, but he also wasn't even remotely close to being the worst. Luckily for them that he had Michael Tarver there.
Right.
And I can't even say Heath Slater was a bum, because of all of them, who had a longer career in WWE than Heath Slater?
Did he out? Maybe Danielson. Maybe. And Danielson ended up switching teams because he choked an announcer, a ring announcer.
Yeah, and that was Justin Roberts too.
Right. Yeah, Mike Rainey. I don't like it. Andre definitely was difficult to work with, but I don't think he was that much of a douchebag as Flair was to, just doing his job, really. You got a belligerent customer, you don't have to deal with that. I don't care how famous. I don't care how much money you spend. There's a thing called respect and dignity. And Flair clearly has no respect for anybody. He doesn't even have respect for himself, clearly. Yeah.
If he had respect for himself, he never would have gotten into that wrestling match.
Right.
Leave that flavor in here.
So if you want to talk about people who had a bad week in pro wrestling and how Ric Flair really had the worst week, I'm going to go with the second worst this week would be Drew Gulak.
Yep, let me just cross that off my list too.
Drew Gulak. So, you know, the stuff Ronda Rousey said about him, I'm like going, To me, it didn't sound like it was this terrible thing. But, like, almost immediately, WWE, like, wrote him off TV, and I'm like, that seems very sudden for something that seems like a minor offense when you compare it to, you know, what the former owner of the company apparently allegedly did. Like, you got rid of him for that. Then it comes out this week that, you know, Gulak kind of wanted to be like the grizzled veteran who taught the young kids a lesson. You know, his character work wasn't the greatest. As a performer in the ring, you know, he had a lot of stellar matches. I mean, I remember when he went against Daniel Bryanson, and he talked about how, like, oh, there's holes in your game and you just don't see it. That was one of my favorite, like, grappling wrestling matches I've seen because he was trying to showcase the holes in Danielson's game, and it forced, you know, Danielson to work different, and it was refreshing. It was great. But then it comes out that Drew Gulak, if somebody was in the ring and wrestling hurt, not injured, hurt, that he would actually, instead of trying to avoid hitting that area, he would specifically go after them and target that area and try to exploit this in a shoot way, not in like, oh, this is part of the match and we're working. No, he was trying to be a dick. And it allegedly that he had a match, I think it was in September of last year, where he intentionally spiked some dude's head into the mat.
Dante Chen.
On purpose. Like, dude, like, these other people are putting their lives, their health in your hands. After this, like, Drew Gulak, good luck getting work, man. Who is going to want to work with that? You know, there was the what was her name? A Mexican wrestler who, you know, went into business for herself and I think tried to hurt Thunder Rosa in a match. And she has not wrestled again. But Drew Gulak doing kind of similar things. The fact that they didn't fire him before this, what the hell? Like, if he legit was doing that, it said that Shawn Michaels, like, railed into him for him doing the crap he did. But, damn, man. That's not cool.
I saw the clip. I saw the actual clip where he dropped dude on his head, and it was as clear as day. That's exactly what he did.
Yeah.
He should be thankful that he lasted as long as he did. And I cannot believe I'm saying this, but I applaud Ronda Rousey for this, because if it wasn't for her, this wouldn't have come to light. And to give you context of what kind of a piece of shit Drew Gulak is, the person who kind of went out there and confirmed all of this was a thing was Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes was the one. He said, I remember it years ago. I told people about Drew Gulak. This guy thinks he's a big deal when he really isn't. He goes, I was just texting freaking Ethan Page the other day talking about how much of a piece of shit Drew Gulak is. And then all this shit came out, and it's like, wow.
And they showed the interview. I think I saw the interview this week where I mean, several years ago, he said, I don't like this guy. I don't think he said it exactly this way, but I'm going to paraphrase in my own way that his character work is as dull as dishwater.
It's crazy that all this stuff has just come out about it. You never know. Sometimes, the stupidest thing you could do, something silly. And now I don't even know if I even think that Drew didn't do what Drew did. Because now you got to side with Ronda. I mean, granted, I can't side with Ronda because Ronda, I mean, she just is, I swear, she has so many sour grapes with WWE. She could open a vineyard. It's incredible. And the fact that this has come out of it, I'm amazed. I saw the thing earlier before the podcast started about how she was complaining about how Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar and Logan Paul got to fly the charter plane, and she has to fly. It was either first class in a one-seater with her kid. And she's like, oh, I should have been on that charter flight too. Yeah, you're not Brock Lesnar. You were not Brock Lesnar the second Holly Holm knocked you out. You were not Brock Lesnar when Emmanuel Nunez beat you. You should have just rode the high you rode when you first came in there, but you came back on a vendetta with a chip on your shoulder, worse than you were before. Just go away. I don't want you in wrestling anymore. You do nothing for the product. You can't sit here and take all the accolades, Ronda, and act like you're the only winner, and then when things didn't go your way, you blame it on CTE. Antonio Brown.
Right.
You just can't do that. And honestly, this was the toughest week for Brainless. This really was.
They're like, after the Flair video came out, I'm like going, oh, it's a slam dunk. And then all of a sudden, all this other stuff comes out. I'm like, wow. Wow.
I'll be honest with you. After the video emerged, when the restaurant released the video, I literally went and got the Brainless Thoughts 2.0 book. And this was the earliest that I have ever wrote down any notes for an episode of the podcast. And all I did was I went to the next available blank sheet, put a letter B for Brainless, and wrote Ric Flair. Because I said it's not going to matter. Because there's nothing that's going to top this. And I'm not even going to sit here and say I know that there was still Wednesday's Dynamite on board, no. I said, no, there's nothing that can happen this week that Ric Flair is going to get, supplanted as my Brainless. I mean, Drew McIntyre. Drew Gulak did a hell of a job at it.
And then wrestling fans, specifically one, ROH taping, Sky Blue going against Rachel Ellering. Hey, look, you're a fan. You pay money. You get to, shout and have fun. Have fun. But when you cross the line and say such vile and disgusting things to a performer, where like the referee's yelling at you, the opponent of that person is pissed at you, the crowd is pissed at you, and they kick you out. As the philosopher Mike Tyson once said, a lot of people these days think they're tough. Say that in front of somebody and get punched so you learn some respect. That dude needs to get punched in the face and learn some respect. Yeah, you could go out to the show and have some fun, but like, no, there's a line you cross where you're not being fun, you're being an asshole. This dude became an asshole and got ejected like he should have for being disrespectful.
I am going to recuse myself from this one, Cousin Jay. Not that I has been as abhorrently awful as this guy was towards Sky Blue and the Ring of Honor tapings, but the fact that I have been a time or two that drunken asshole at a sporting event, I am going to recuse myself from this one. I'm not condoning this, because whatever he said was inappropriate and just not warranted for the situation. He should have just stopped. My whole thing is that as the drunken asshole, I can understand. Not to take it too far, but to be that drunken asshole. Just ask Curtis Pride, who played center field for the Yankees when I was there in 2003, and I was harassing him while he's patrolling center field. Don't worry, the deaf man got his freaking karma against me as he got the walk-off hit. Trust me. The man will have karma come and hit him, whether it's, the world's karma or if karma just comes out.
Whether it's a bust like happened to Darby Allin last week, or
exactly.
or like that scene from Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle, where the dude's in jail and he's like, the world just seems to work itself out.
Yes.
It did. I know that's a movie, but yes, that happens. The world works itself out.
It's kind of like this is actually a hell of a segue. MLB Network the other day was covering the Dodgers and the Marlins. The Marlins, who are god awful and just traded away their best hitter to the Padres, were playing the Dodgers, who had just signed that dude from Japan. Before the game had started, the MLB Network guys decided to say, this is the earliest this has ever happened. As Yamamoto was coming out of the bullpen, they said, the Marlins are on no-hit bid already. Or they're on no-hit alert already. The first batter of the game for the Marlins hit a home run on the first pitch. That almost got my good for this week because I couldn't believe it happened.
That sounds almost as good as when Jeff was flipping out during that Indians game several years ago, where he's like, I can't believe Tito put that bum in. He's going to give up a home run. And what do you know? The first pitch. Yeah.
Yeah.
He did. It was the greatest call I've ever seen in my life. And we did not stop laughing for 10 minutes?
Wasn't that the game that we were at Red Dog and
we were at Red Dog.
Game on, and they put the game on, and the very first batter hit a home run, ended the game, and Jeff's like, all right.
And Jeff knew the moment that pitcher came into the game that it was done.
Yeah. I remember that was funny as shit. It's funny when it's not, Aaron Boone trotting out to hit a home run against Tim Wakefield in the 2003 Game 7 ALCS.
Made 2004 better.
Yes, it did. It really did. So did Pedro dumping Zimmer like he was in a match in AEW.
Yeah.
Yeah. I tried, Cousin Jay. I was going to try to go the entire episode without making one negative, snarky remark about AEW. I can't do it. I just can't do it. And it's because, like I said, it's their fans, because it's not just him. There's so many accounts out there going, by God, they're insufferable.
Mm.
You can't say a negative thing about them. I know I've said this probably every single week, but it just feels like it every single week. You can't say a negative thing about them because they all emerge from their mother's basements at the same time with beards on their necks flowing like you would never believe and Cheeto dust still on their fingers. How dare you say anything bad about the elites? Send.
Yeah.
Jay, when they announced that they were doing Anarchy in the Arena on Wednesday.
And it was made by Captain Twinkle Toes.
This is why I can't wait to get into the pay-per-view. I cannot wait to get into the pay-per-view. Yes. The fact that they did Anarchy in the Arena and they're like, we're going to do the new Elite. I'm like, of course, here we go. And it's going to look up against Team AEW. So it's going to be the former GOAT Okada. He's no longer the GOAT because he associates himself with Team Jannetty. Jungle Jerk Off, who I call Jungle Jerk Off because his dad should have just jerked off instead of, reproducing.
Yeah.
And the two guys who make up the tag team, where both guys think they're Shawn Michaels, when in actuality they're both Marty Jannetty. And they're like, oh, we're going to do them against FTR. Oh, my God, not again. We're doing FTR versus the Young Bucks. This isn't like when they do the New Day versus the Usos, where they could book that match 1,000,000 times, and I would watch all 1,000,000 matches of it because it's that good. Same thing with the main event on Raw this week. You can give me Sheamus and Gunther every day, and I would watch it. Same thing.
Even though Sheamus retired himself from going against Gunther.
Yes, he'll still fight him one more time. Come on. At some point, Gunther's going to win the World Heavyweight Championship, and their paths are going to cross. And are you going to tell me that Sheamus is going to nah, fella? I'm not going to fight Gunther because I'm 0-3. He's going to see him banger after banger after banger, and he'll fight him again.
The handprint on the back was the best.
Oh, yes. And just like back in the old days of ECW with Jerry Lynn and RVD, I could watch those guys wrestle 1,000,000 times. I don't get that with the Bucks and FTR because they don't mesh well. And it's not FTR's fault that they don't mesh well. Hint, hint, wink, wink.
By the way, the Brainbusters and the Rockers, if I'm remembering right, had some great matches.
Yes, but that's expected. Because even Marty Jannetty, what's the old saying? Even a broken clock is right twice a day.
Yes.
So even Marty Jannetty could have a couple of matches. Hell, John Cena has a 5-star match. That's all I'm saying. You just so it's not against the realm of possibilities, especially when you got a guy like Shawn Michaels who super kicks every. Jesus Christ, they are the Rockers, aren't they? That's what they are. They're just a really
and that's why I said Brainbusters against the Rockers, because
would they be the Brainbusters? I thought they would be more like the Midnight Express. No, I'm sorry.
FTR definitely patterns themselves after the Brainbusters. I could see Midnight Express, but I see the Brainbusters more than anything. Very, very important comment from Tim in the comment section. I feel like they braid their neck beard hair. So the neck beards, they braid the neck beard hair. And I'm wondering if they braid it like Sheamus? Back in the day when he looked stupid?
No, nothing was that bad.
But, if you're talking about the AEW neckbeards, would they do that?
I don't know if it's... No, because they would actually have to pay attention to it. It would just be easier for them to shave it. They're just too busy talking positively, I don't know why, about AEW whenever they can, because I don't get it. I just don't get it. I can't fathom it. I just can't fathom it. And then here we go. And then they're like, oh, we're going to have 2 surprise partners for FTR. So let's give them, of all the people, Team AEW versus the Crooked Elite. The basically the new foundation version of the Elite. Because you basically got 4 people you basically got Okada, who's out of place in here. He should be off doing other things. And 3 guys are not even good enough to deliver Bret Hart's newspaper. But they're like Team AEW, and they give us FTR because you're like, yes, we got to keep doing this FTR and the Bucks thing because that's just what we do now because we have to beat this to death. But then you give them Eddie Kingston and Bryan Danielson. I'm sorry, Daniel Bryanson?
Right.
Just to come to find out the Daniel Bryan is literally the only person who has been in every Anarchy in the Arena match. I think the fuckheads were not. Bryan Danielson is the only person who has been in every single Anarchy in the Arena match. And I'm gonna tell you right now, other than Eddie Kingston walking down the ramp covered in blood with his Yankee shirt, the only time I ever was happy to see a Yankee shirt, granted it was covered in blood, with the can of freaking gasoline in his hand as he's about to set Chris Jericho on fire. Other than that, the Anarchy in the Arena matches have done absolutely zero, zilch, nada. It's just another stupid, gimmicky shit that they do. What was the matter? They couldn't just bust out the Jacksonville Stadium? Were they afraid to ruin that, just like Tony Khan ruined the Jacksonville Jaguars franchise by going out there and saying, hey, my number one contender is Harvey Weinstein. And I am Pepsi because, heaven forbid, I'll speak negatively about Coke. Yeah, we know you can't do that, Herb Abrams Jr.
Pepsi, Phil. What?
But I just don't know why. This is my issue, Jay. They just randomly put Christian Cage, who had just lost a feud, and I'm not arguing the fact that he shouldn't be in this match, him personally, because he's the best heel in the business right now. He's boss man territory. Let's be serious.
Yes.
But he just randomly gets it. You do the ratings. Are you not doing the ratings? Are you not doing the rankings? What are you doing here? And now you're getting a guy who just lost the TBS or the TNT, whatever it is, the TNT title, the former Hot Potato Championship. I'm sure it's still the Hot Potato title. I'm curious how many champions are there now. Thank goodness for Captain Charisma putting some stability and some respect on that TNT championship like nobody else could, who never won the title actually. But why is he in this? Why is Serena Deeb out of nowhere getting a title shot against Toni Storm? Why are they doing this like Anarchy? Like you're picking 4 random dudes for AEW. Why aren't they all 4 AEW originals? Why isn't Moxley in this match? And this is me pleading for Moxley to be in this match. The plumber himself. It should be Moxley. It should be all originals. And the sad part is, what you're going to do Moxley, and I guess it's because you could end up doing Moxley, Jericho, a diverticulitis, Kenny Omega, and Steve Cutler.
So Tim in the chat is saying, could MJF and Adam Cole, baby, be the mystery tag team to help? I mean, could they be pulling the wool over our eyes as far as injuries? Possible. You know, it's not beyond wrestling companies to leak false injuries to keep a storyline going, specifically with a dude like MJF. I could see him wearing a sling and pretending that, like, oh, yep, I got the surgery, I'm out. I could see him doing that, but I would say I feel both him and Adam Cole, baby, I don't think it's part of the storyline. I think they're going to be out for a little while longer.
Adam Cole, and honestly, I don't see it being Adam Cole part of this, because him joining forces with the Elite when he's already got the Undisputed Kingdom with him. I think Kyle O'Reilly, I don't know if Kyle O'Reilly's with them or not anymore. Who the hell knows? Bobby Fish isn't there, so I don't care. It's the only way I would actually be fully vested in that storyline is if they brought in my boy Bobby Fish to be back in the storyline and back in AEW and back with Adam Cole, baby. But what are you going to do? You're going to morph this new Elite into the Undisputed Kingdom and Adam Cole? Oh, no, I can't have a no stable with Adam Cole and the Young Bucks. No, that would make me sick. That would
that's a taint that I don't think would come off Cole there.
It's already bad enough because they absolutely flopped that freaking Devil storyline. Like, I'm shocked that they did. But oh my, this is what I'm talking about. It's like everybody's like, oh, you know, the AEW pay-per-views are better than the WWE premium live events because premium live events, other than like the major 4, there's only 4 or 5 matches.
I like
Of
that
those-
there's only 4 or 5 matches.
Of those matches that I listed off for whatever the hell, what is it, Double or Nothing, All In, whatever the hell it is, don't care.
Double
Not
or
going to
Nothing.
watch it.
Yeah.
I was happier with Backlash. Backlash was a better card. So I'm not excited for this. I mean, that's not really saying much. I'm not excited for this AEW pay-per-view. However, since we're on the subject of pay-per-views / premium live events, let's talk about Backlash.
Yeah.
The first thing I want to mention, and I know I said this for WrestleMania, boy, oh boy, are CM Punk and Big E, is that chemistry just amazing or what?
Yeah.
They did such a wonderful job on the pre-show. I was more excited for the pre-show just because E and Punk were just fantastic together. They have incredible chemistry. They worked well together. They really made it seem great. And then they gave us the masterpiece of all masterpieces. And I thought I was having a fever dream because it didn't seem like it was real.
And it wasn't Chris Masters.
It was not Chris Masters. Kayla Braxton was in France. And she said, I needed somebody to take me around France to show me a thing or two. And I said, oh, I can only imagine who the hell she's going to do this. And who happens to be right in the shot? The cupcake eater of worlds, Captain Cupcake.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched. And I was like, what are they doing with this? He was ordering French pastries. He was in a pastry shop. He had a French baguette. I was just like, this is just too good. I'm like, this asshole fucking blocked us 7 fucking years ago for exactly what he's doing on the pre-show. But I'm the bad guy, no pun intended. And you know what? I don't care. I enjoyed every second of it because I was visioning him back in NXT in catering. And I figured that's how it had to be for him back in catering back in those days in NXT. Because God only knows that as soon as you get down, you're about to have your plate. They're like, all right, you got to release the Kraken. Oh, no. Oh, no. And then Cassius Ohno would come barreling into the catering department with 7 empty plates, and he would fill every single one of them. And then as he sits down to start eating, hey, Chris Hero, did you get enough? Oh, no. So I understand why Kevin Owens tried to eat 7,000 different pastries and sweets from France, because I'm sure that he was still having flashbacks of the days of the Cassius Ohno and his battles every week with catering. I would say his weight, but then we'd have to bring Nigel McGuinness into the equation, and I don't want to. He's 270-pounder Mauro Ranallo. My goodness, 300-pounder Cassius Ohno. By God, Mauro, that 320-pounder did not snap his wrist when he did the flip out of the ring. Like I always thought he was going to.
Speaking of the cupcake eater of worlds, he said in an interview that his current WWE contract is up in 9 months, which means sometime around the Royal Rumble. And he said that he does not know what's next. What are your thoughts on the possible end of the road for what could have been a great faction, the Hostess Heroes?
I don't see Kevin Owens retiring anytime soon. He really did put over a lot of people when he made that statement. Talking about a lot of the people backstage he really likes and really enjoys working with.
Right.
I am not putting it out of the realm of possibilities, especially if this whole thing, like if this Adam Cole thing, if there's any legs to this Adam Cole joining forces with the Young Bucks, at that point, I would not rule out Kevin Steen going to AEW. But I'll be damned if El Generico returns to his after vanishing from the orphanage or whatever it was that they said that he disappeared from, because Sami Zayn's not going anywhere. Sami Zayn now has the best entrance in all of professional wrestling, and you cannot tell me otherwise. CM Punk's a second.
Wow, you're putting that over Jey Uso?
I not to take away how the fans react, how Jay gets in it, how Pat McAfee just adds such an element to the Jey Uso thing. It is a lot of fun. I love the whole going through the. I've always been a fan of the going through the crowd entrances. I enjoyed it when the Sandman did it. I loved it when the Shield did it. I was a big fan of that. Hell, even when the Nexus came through the crowd a bunch of times, would like Wade Barrett would come out onto the stage and like the 6 other Nexus people would come through the crowd. I've always enjoyed a good crowd entrance. So I'm going to give that to Sami Zayn. And just because of the fact that for the last 5+ months, or we're in our 5th month, I should say, of the post Bucky Beaver era of production in WWE. And ever since this whole new regime has taken over, I applaud Triple H for the booking and how they've handled everything. But whoever it was that they brought in to replace Bucky Beaver in the whole production of WWE on all of their shows, I'm giving them a Marquee Award at the end of the year because they deserve it. Because if we're going to give one a Marquee Award for Market Moment of the Year, which is still active after 4 months, by the way, everyone, we have to pay. He's got to get the Lifetime Achievement Award because everything they have done with the production, I have been a huge fan of. I've said this before. I know and I'll keep saying this. I don't remember the last time I was this excited to watch Monday Night Raw every single week. I don't. It's been a very, very long time. It hasn't been since at least when the Wyatt family first debuted on the main roster was the last time I was this excited for Raw every single week. Not since CM Punk left either that I've been this excited for Monday Night Raw.
And you get to enjoy Monday Night Raw through the end of the year on the USA Network.
Yes, you do. I had a feel, and I think we talked about this, and I said I wouldn't be surprised if they just got like a short-term extension with the USA Network just to finish out before they make the leap to Netflix. And kudos, I mean, USA Network could have just been like, yeah, you guys are abandoning us. Yeah, fuck you. But I knew
they're not abandoning them. They're
getting smacked down. Well, they're upgrading because they're not going to have the B show. They're going to have the A show. Because whatever show that Tama Tonga is on is the A show. And make sure you tell all your AEW fan friends that Tama Tonga is a bigger draw than Okada, Will Ospreay, and the Mercedes-Benz in AEW combined.
Yeah.
And if you don't believe me, go back and watch the match from Backlash. Because I'm telling you, Cousin Jay, I have never, in my 35+ years of watching professional wrestling, I have never heard a commentator say a wrestler's name more in a single wrestling match than Michael Cole said Tama Tonga during that tag team match on Saturday. By the way, that match kicking off the way it did was awesome. I love the fact that they just started brawling right before the match and they were just beating the crap out of each other. And then Nick Aldis comes out there and says, well, if you guys are going to have it this way, this is how we're going to do it. Let's make this no disqualification. I went, yes, I love it. Because here comes the fuckery of all of it. And they beat the shit out of each other. They smashed each other. They pummeled each other. I enjoyed every second of that tag team match with the new bloodline, and I'm not calling them what they're called. RK Cupcake. The bloodline and RK Cupcake. That was an
RKO.
the hostess RK. The RK ho ho. RK Oreo. Oh boy. Oh, it's so funny because it's true. But honestly, Jay, that was an awesome match. I love the way they did it. And I love the fact that everybody was speculating when
Jacob Fatu.
Jacob, I was like, which Fatu is it? I'm like, there's too many of them. How many Fatus are here in the WWE? Yo! My God. I'm surrounded by Fatus. Keep firing, Fatus. I've made a Spaceballs reference. Ugh! But anyway, everybody was expecting Jacob Fatu to show up and make his debut and get involved, especially when they were like, oh, we're going to make this no disqualification. I was like, oh, here they go. They're going to do it right here. This is where Jacob's going to come out, beat the shit out of everybody. But lo and behold, they did the old switcheroo, and it was Tongaloa, Tama Tonga's brother, who came out at the end, botching his debut, but we won't get into that.
But by the way, when they say debut, I see you, WWE.
Hey, pal.
I know that you're trying to forget.
Hey, pal.
That he ended up showing up to the ring on the back of a bicycle.
Oh, no.
As Camacho.
He was the one who rode the bicycle. The Sin Cara 2.0 was the one who used to ride the bat. For whatever reason, I knew that because that's all I remember Camacho doing. Was all Camacho did was ride the bike to the ring.
That's all he did.
He never wrestled a match. I never saw him wrestle one match. He just rode the bike to the ring. I said, geez Louise, this is worse than The Undertaker coming out on a motorcycle.
When I saw that, it reminded me, quite honestly, of when Chavo Guerrero Jr. rode the wooden horse to the ring in WCW.
Was that Little Chavo?
Yeah?
Yeah.
There was a name for the wooden horse. I'm not remembering it off the top
That's what it was.
head, but
that's what it was.
Chavo has told the story. He's like going, that was supposed to be a rib, and I ended up like ripping myself because it was just supposed to be a joke, and it got over.
I want to say the horse's name was Little Chavo.
It might have been.
That's why it was so funny, because it was Chavo Guerrero Jr. writing Little Chavo. I said, this is so wrong on so many ways, but it was funny as shit. Oh my God, I haven't heard about that in a minute. And I had a freaking trip down memory lane a little bit too.
Tim's saying, I truly wonder if the dastardly Baltimore watches Raw now and sees the changes and realizes Kevin Dunn sucked at his job. I don't think so. I think if he watches Raw now, he's like, this sucks, pal. I can't wait till I start up my new federation next year, and Kevin Dunn is going to fix all that's wrong with professional wrestling. Mike Rainey in the chat saying, speaking of Mercedes, I know the Brainless one doesn't watch Redacted, but Tony Khan definitely dropped the ball with that signing. Yeah, I think we all knew that before it was announced.
That's crazy that Mike Rainey mentioned that, because I wrote that down. I want to actually talk about that for a bit after we talk about Backlash. Because I actually wrote down something about Mercedes Monet, but I want to talk about Backlash. Jay, the Gorillas of Destiny are in WWE. We're going to get the Usos versus the Gorillas of Destiny.
Yes.
You're going to have somehow, some way, Solo Sikoa, Roman Reigns, and Jacob Fatu put together. Because tell me right now what match in all of WWE deserves a War Games match more than the Bloodline Civil War. we're not going to just see The Rock return at WrestleMania 41 next year. If he's off filming something and it's going to be for the rest of the summer, he's going to have plenty of time to get ready for War Games. If that is the route you want to go. Because I don't know how many more Fatus you can add to this company. I mean, granted, I've heard the stories. I forget which one. Cornette told the story where he said that they were going to fire Rikishi, and then Afa came in to have a conversation with Rikishi or with Vince McMahon about Rikishi and losing his job. And when it was finished, 2 more of them had signed, and so did Afa. And Rikishi kept his job because the Fatu Anoa'i family like basically owns WWE, even though Vince technically owns it. But it's like you got Umaga's kid. I mean, there's one guy I really wish was still alive was Umaga because he would be a hell of a person to have in this whole storyline. I'd love to see Rikishi get involved in this. You have so many different ways. Like, I cannot believe that the Bloodline storyline is still going strong. Still going strong. And all they did was they took the Usos, they made Jay a main eventer, they made Jimmy disappear, the reverse Goldberg took over as the lead, and now the Gorillas of Destiny are in WWE. What a time to be a WWE fan. I mean, really. It's just Janelle
If
Grant.
Vince was still in WWE, would he be riding the bicycle just because it's an established brand within WWE universe, brother?
Cousin Jay, if Vince McMahon was still in WWE, the Gorillas of Destiny would probably be AEW bound right now instead of working in WWE. Either that or Tama Tonga would be called Luis Steele and wrestling down in NXT at 41 years of age, doing absolutely nothing except putting over. I don't even. Yeah, right. Ridge Holland. If Vince McMahon was still there, there'd be New Gunther. If Vince McMahon was there, LA Knight would not be the favorite to represent SmackDown in the King of the Ring. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a whole lot of good shit going on in WWE, and it's because that such good shit, pal, is not there anymore. We saw it on Saturday on a card with 5 matches. 40% of those matches were women's matches. The triple threat match for the women's championship was very good. And I'm, as somebody who is not an overly huge fan of triple threat championship matches, because it is lazy booking, that match rocked. And I'm going to tell you right now, the more I see her, I think that run in Impact TNA did something good for Naomi. Because she's always had the presence about her. She's always had a way of, the cool look and all this stuff. She's not as bad in the ring as she was when she was first in WWE before she left for Impact. I think that time over there definitely did wonders for her because she learned a few things and she actually got a lot better.
That and a dastardly.
Yes. But Tiffany, I'm telling you,
from above.
Jay, Tiffany Stratton's the real deal. She's going to, it doesn't matter what Ric Flair is going to have. Tiffany Stratton's going to pass her. Don't care. She's either going to pass Ric Flair and Charlotte Flair for the most title reigns, or she's going to have a Roman Reigns type reign as women's champion. Hell, she may have a Mae Young type of, a fabulous Moolah type of reign. I apologize, Mae Young. She might have a fabulous Moolah type of reign as champion. That's how good Tiffany Stratton is. And I'm glad that she got to showcase it in front of the fans in France. That triple threat match was actually a lot of fun to watch. And you had the women's tag team match, which in a lot of ways was probably the biggest. I mean, in a match that was in a card that was very predictable.
Right.
That match was awesome too. Jade Cargill has gotten better and better, and she's only going to get better working with Bianca Belair. Bianca kind of teasing that heel turn, like, oh, who can I trust, all this stuff, because of the whole thing that's going on with Damage Control and everything. She's so done with Damage Control. I would love to see a heel Bianca and a heel Jade Cargill. Absolutely.
Right.
But I'm so glad that they won those tag team titles. They had a really solid match. Jade looks better and better every time she's in the ring. Bianca is slowly but surely becoming one of the two biggest women's stars in the entire women's division in all of wrestling, not just the WWE. And I'm glad that they had that moment. And that all the matches I thought were great. I enjoyed the hell out of that.
It was a very enjoyable show. It was the biggest gate they've ever had for an arena. Having that match for Backlash in Lyon, France.
Contrary to what everybody believes.
It was also the lowest bought premium live event in like WWE history. You know what? WWE is laughing all the way to the bank. It has nothing to do with pay-per-view buys anymore. They have deals, whether it's with Netflix or whether it's with Peacock, where they're paid a crap ton of money for having their premium live events there. It don't matter anymore. Not for them. AEW it matters, but not for WWE.
See, I'm not even worried about the premium live event numbers, just because now with the way Peacock is,
it don't matter. It does not matter. They put on a really good show in front of a really hot crowd.
That crowd was awesome.
And this was the first premium live event or pay-per-view WWE has ever done there. And that was one of the things I've been going on and on about over the last couple of years since Nick Khan has become CEO of the company. He's like, you know what? Let's do these big shows outside of the United States with a crowd that is thirsty for this. And that crowd is going to ignite the people around the world to have even more hype for this product. That crowd was insane. And they had good matches too.
All the chants, like DC's also, like they were actually like the whole French accent to all of the chants was just top notch. I loved the hell out of that. It was that crowd was incredible. France has earned the spot. If they want a WrestleMania, they can have it. And honestly, Jay, I look back into those days when, you know, the premium live events used to, you know, when there wasn't a network or a Peacock that was, you know, doing this, and you had to pay the, you know, whatever, $40, $60, $80 a month for the WWE pay-per-views. I'll be honest, if Saturday at 1 o'clock, $40, oh yeah, I definitely would have tuned in. I would have paid for that. It was worth it. It would have been worth the $40. There's been a few pay-per-views lately that they've done that I felt that way. That I'm like, because that was something that you and I had discussed many years ago with the network, where it was like, yeah, you know, everybody's going to pay, you know, X amount of dollars for WrestleMania because it's WrestleMania. The true diehards definitely get the Royal Rumble and SummerSlam. But, you know, not too many people are going to get No Mercy. Not too many people are going to get Backlash.
Great Balls of Fire.
Great Balls of Fire. But with the network and now with Peacock, and they stream it and they have it and you pay whatever it is a month and you get all the pay-per-views. You know, it makes sense. That's why you get more people to tune into a lot of these shows. But I've always kind of held that in the back of my mind, like, is this a pay-per-view that I would have actually spent money to watch? And I actually felt that way about Backlash. And it was, a lot of it had to do with the crowd, because that crowd was hot. That crowd was just like the Backlash crowd in Puerto Rico last year. They were that fire. And kudos to Nick Khan. Having WWE expand, like Cousin Jay said, and they've gone to all these different countries and established their brand a little bit more. That's how you do it. You go and do stuff like that. And WWE is in a very, very good spot. As long as everybody in that company does everything in their power to make sure that Voldemort never steps foot inside a WWE facility again, they're fine. Jerry McDivitt just needs to retire before Vince McMahon has to go to court against Janelle Grant.
Couple of things in the chat before we get to move on. Mike Rainey saying, I have to disrespectfully disagree with you on the women's tag team championship. I still think it was too early for Jade to win any title. You can tell she's still green in the ring. I think she should have gone to NXT and worked there for a bit before having her win any championship. Tim said, I think Jade got lost in the match, and she was very rough with Kairi Sane. And Chris Brown saying, wait for when they have SummerSlam in Toronto. And then Mike Rainey agrees with Tim. She had to be told what to do by Bianca. Taking all of what you said, and she is not Charlotte Flair in the ring. She's not Bianca Belair in the ring. I know it's a different era, and I know it's a different time. Hulk Hogan was not Ricky Steamboat in the ring.
Not a lot of people were, Cousin Jay. Not a lot of people were.
I know that. But Hulk Hogan made a whole bunch of money because he had a presence about him and cocaine.
Wait, hold on a second, Cousin Jay.
Yes, if the vitamins were cocaine.
If you ask Hulk Hogan, he would say that I could wrestle like Ricky Steamboat, brother. And look, I'm not saying that Jade Cargill, like you said, is the next. She's not Charlotte Flair in the ring. I'm just saying she's gotten better from what she was. It's going to take time because I look at it as like working in AEW and then going and not having any training and then going to AEW to learn how to wrestle and then going to WWE. It's like being on a drug and getting off of it, and you just kind of have to wean yourself off. And that's basically what they had to do because they got to train all the stupid shit that she learned from the AEW people. They didn't even teach her how to hold a chair properly to attack somebody. CM Punk was like, no, you have to hold a chair like this. CM Punk had to help her. It wasn't his job. That's why you have guys like EVPs who are supposed to do this stuff to help the people get better. All I'm saying is she's better than she was in AEW. Yes, I'm not saying that she had the perfect match. It's not like Dave Meltzer was going to go out of his way to throw 5 stars in that tag team match. I'm just saying she was better than she was in AEW. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. And I thought she fared well. I thought she was fine. I thought it was. I enjoyed the match. Yes, it did look like she got lost at one point in the match, but like I said, I actually enjoyed it, and I appreciate her progression. She's not as terrible as she was in AEW.
Not Nia Jax.
What about Nia Jax?
She's not Nia Jax.
Apparently, they said that Nia Jax is everything that the WWE wanted her to be. I said, that's impossible because if Nia Jax was everything I wanted her to be, she'd be gone.
Yeah?
Yeah. But, I mean, there was 2 other matches. We got main event Jey Uso with definitely the coolest entrance of the night. Going up against the head of the Spooky Pals, Bisexual Taker.
Yeah.
That match was awesome, too. Priest, I've enjoyed Priest. I know it's only been a month, but I have enjoyed Priest as the champion. He has deserved this. Another solid match between the two of them. And, no surprise, really. Spooky Pals keep on spooky palling, and they are still world heavyweight champions. Thoughts on the men's world heavyweight championship match, Cousin Jay?
I mean, it went down about as I suspected it was going to go down. You just put the title on Priest. Jey Uso is even over with children that are still in like their cribs, where kids like Effin Marks Hall of Famer Tim sent me a video of a kid. I think it was on TikTok when Jey Uso came out, and the kid who looks like might be like a year or two old is going as Jey Uso comes to the ring. He's even over with the kids. Even over with the kids. So I didn't think they would have him, win the title in this match. I knew that the Spooky Pals were going to get involved, and this, in some way, shape, or form, was going to be how we had Damian Priest retain. But they did a solid job with that match of giving a moment or two where you're like, maybe, with how hot the crowd was, and like maybe they are going to call an audible and be like, this dude is so over right now, we really should change our plans. A couple of moments, but they didn't do that. They made the right call here. And we got a lot of fun near falls in this match. Really, really just good storytelling. And, when I was talking to a coworker, she was not like, the storylines, I'm like, they just had WrestleMania. You have built up all these things. In the case of Cody Rhodes, you could say that thing's been built up for a decade and a half.
Well, if you ask him,
talking the quote-unquote short-term version of it, they've been building that up for 2 years. How do you go from building something up for 2 years to all of a sudden, like, you have realized that, to a month later, you got something as relevant? Damian Priest holding that Money in the Bank for so long, winning the way he did. You didn't have any like clear big rivals that you could put him against immediately where you're like going, oh yes, the only person they could have put him in the ring with the title on the line, although it wouldn't have made sense, where you're like going, yeah, would be Bad Bunny.
Yeah. Oh, no, you could definitely make sense of that because that's long-term storytelling as it is. Because last year at Backlash, Bad Bunny beat Damian Priest in a street fight. So Bad Bunny could be like, hey, I beat you last year. I could definitely beat you again this year. And if Bad Bunny
was the only person that after a WrestleMania storyline that you could have like been, okay, this is some long-term storytelling. But they're doing the restart right now with Backlash. And I thought they did a good enough job of building up the card as it was, starting their quote-unquote new season in 2024 after after WrestleMania.
And that's really the other reason why they didn't really have any big-time stories heading into Backlash, because they gave us that putrid freaking draft a couple weeks ago that they were like, oh yeah, the roster's reset the Monday after Backlash. Of course, yeah, there it is. So yeah, there wasn't really much you could have done. I mean, the only other thing they could have done really with Priest is give him the rematch against Drew, but for whatever reason, you made Drew fight 3 other people in a fatal 4-way to determine the number 1 contender, including 2 guys who weren't even at WrestleMania. I mean, they might have been sitting in back and catering, holding up their end of the bargain of Cassius Ohno not being there. But I mean, that's what they could have done that. Did we need to have a fatal 4-way? Unless, like we found out this week on Monday, the poor people from our home state of Hartford, Connecticut, missing out on Drew McIntyre being able to compete. But that was the only other way they could have done it, was Drew gets the rematch after Punk cost him the title.
Right. And, allegedly Drew is legit hurt. Had something happen during the WrestleMania match.
He didn't want sand in his vagina.
Yeah.
Let's call it what it is. I mean, I know that he's been battling injuries because wasn't it like his eardrum got destroyed in the Royal Rumble or in the Elimination Chamber, I think it was.
Elimination Chamber.
So, I mean,
they made fun of CM Punk because of the fact that, I got hurt too, but.
Karma.
Yeah. Mike Rainey saying by the next Premium Live event, I can see Priest say F this and ends up leaving the Spooky Pals, thus officially turning him babyface. I think it'll take a little longer.
SummerSlam is going to be the latest they do it. That's where they're going to do it, because a lot of people were thinking that he was going to turn babyface and then cash in his briefcase after turning on the Spooky Pals. But that's how it's going to happen, because like we saw it at Backlash, they came out and helped him retain the title when he told them not to. This is going to be the running occurrence. This is going to be the bit, is that the Spooky Pals are going to go out there and help Damian Priest. And one of two things is going to happen. That means either they're going to come out there one time, probably around SummerSlam, and probably SummerSlam itself when he's defending the World Heavyweight Championship. Either Funko Head McDonough or Finn Balor or Eddie's Eddie's legitimate son come out and cost him the match, or Damian Priest is going to be at a disadvantage and they're not going to help him, and he's going to get pissed and then they're going to beat the shit out of him after he loses the match and the title. But that's how they should do it. I think that's what's going to end up happening, is that they're going to come out and screw him over. He's going to get pissed off for losing the title and just go ape shit and beat the crap out of everybody in the Spooky Pals. And hopefully he kicks Funko Head's head into the fucking 9th row. There may be multiple casualties because that head's got to be at least 7 tons.
Yeah.
FP McDonough. That's his new name. FP McDonough.
They would mock me and they would call me freak.
I love that that's now a new staple of the podcast. Anytime we get to see Lars Sullivan, it's always something.
Yeah.
Yeah. But in the main event, we had AJ Styles versus Cody Rhodes for the WWE, for whatever reason, the undisputed WWE Championship. And to really nobody's surprise, Cody Rhodes went over in arguably the best match of the night. Thoughts on Cody and AJ Styles for the WWE Championship, Cousin Jack?
All in all, they put on a really good match. This one thing that does bother me. It I grew tired of the Hulk up by probably before WrestleMania 5. I grew tired of the Hulk up. Now we see a lot of that kind of showing up, where at the end of the match, after somebody's been beat the crap out of, after several times, they've been beaten down, almost got a 2 count, and then there's a finisher, and then they kick out at 1. I know that this is like a new version of storytelling. I know the crowd gets super hyped when it happens. I still get a bit annoyed by it. That was the one thing that took me out of this match, was that when Cody did the Hulk up at the end.
After the burning hammer.
Yeah. It's like everything else was awesome, but that completely just hell, man.
I didn't have that big of an issue with it. If it was like he hit a Styles Clash or a phenomenal forearm and Cody kicked out at one, yeah, I could be upset about that. But like the people like
Even Hogan waited until 2.
and that is blasphemous that you said that you were tired of the Hulk up by the time WrestleMania 5 happened. That's a typical answer from an Ultimate Warrior fan.
It is.
Especially when you had a problem with the hulking up and that and all that jazz and all that stuff. When your guy was shaking,
Yes.
to be fair, he was shaking the ropes because of the cocaine. But that's the guy who got the powers from above.
Because that only lasted for like a couple of years, where the Hogan stuff went on for like a decade.
Cousin Jay, you and I both know that if Hulk Hogan got into a match tomorrow against who doesn't matter, anybody, and he hulked up like he did back when I was 7 years old, you and I both know that I would be just as happy tomorrow watching it when he's hulking up, screaming you at the TV and pointing as he's doing it, like I did when I was 7 years old when he was about to beat the snot out of Sergeant Slaughter for being a traitor to this country and joining forces and becoming an Iraqi supervisor. Oh my God, sympathizer. Almost brainless myself there.
Yeah.
And that's just me because I grew up a Hulkamaniac, and here we are, 35 years later, and Hulk Hogan's completely out of my Rushmore. But honestly,
he's on a different Rushmore at this point.
Hulk Hogan is the one person I want to see in front of a live microphone at all times, and it's more so. I want to see that more than Biden. I want to see that more than CM Punk. I want to see that more than Gus Johnson calling a football game.
Wow.
There is nobody in this world that I want to see with a live microphone in front of them than Hulk Hogan. And if you don't believe me, go watch his interview from the 700 Club. The fact I can't even fathom. I can't even get into it because it's just upsetting. Because every time that man opens his mouth, how is it physically feasibly possible that every time that man opens his mouth, a new lie just emerges? They actually played the voice message from Roddy Piper saying, and I quote, "I'm walking with Jesus," just like Elias was walking with Elias, or we were all walking with Elias a few years ago.
Well, and Elias has a new opponent coming up soon.
Bro?
It's going to be music on music.
He's in AEW? He's going up against a man who has drawn $30 in his career?
No.
Oh, then that's bullshit. It's not even worth it then.
No. Why am I blanking on his name? The dude who played Higher from Creed. Who's in TNA.
Oh, Joe.
Yes. They're going against each other.
They're doing Elijah versus Joe Hendry.
Yes.
Why was this just brought to my attention now?
I figured you knew.
I did not know this. I watched him sing Creed, or his version of Creed, where he was shitting on Top Dollar. And I said, Joe Hendry is now in my top 10 favorite wrestlers of all time without even, or not all time, but Joe Hendry's one of my top 10 wrestlers right now without even watching him wrestle a match. And all he had to do was sing Creed.
Yeah.
With arms wide
open
until the day. It's how Scott Stapp sings. I don't want to hear it.
So they are going against each other in a match, and I'm guessing that they will sing against each other.
Now we got to get Elijah versus Jeff Jarrett. The man who tells people to walk with him versus the man who's drawn $30.
Right.
I'm sure Jeff Jarrett has done other things in professional wrestling, but I can guarantee you this. He has drawn at least $30, which is $30 more than Jungle Jerk ever did.
Yes.
Jungle Jerk couldn't draw money if you gave him a green crayon and a blank piece of paper. Boom.
Speaking of somebody, who has had an awful lot to do with Jeff Jarrett over the years
Oh, this could go any way.
is one Jerry the King Lawler. Jerry the King Lawler this week. I don't know if he was officially released or if his contract just ended, but to be clear, Jerry Lawler still has a Legends deal with WWE, but he no longer has a talent contract with WWE. So, like, showing up on pre-shows or other things like that, that is not part of his deal anymore. We have not seen the King, basically since he had his massive stroke a couple of years ago. So, WWE is still taking care of him. Oh, by the way, he's had a heck of a run. He's in his 70s. So
He's the only.
it's ironic that as they announced that Lawler is gone from WWE, that they, now are having a new King of the Ring tournament. So.
Well, as long as they don't show up in Memphis as king, that's all that matters. Isn't that what it is, or is it the whole state of Tennessee?
Well,
Or was it? That wasn't. Was it Jerry Lawler? It was Jerry Lawler, right? Like Harley Race couldn't go into Tennessee because as King Harley Race because of Jerry Lawler.
Yeah, something like that.
And honestly, I can't say a negative thing about Jerry Lawler. I really can't. The fact that him and Andy Kaufman gave everybody one of the greatest moments in professional wrestling, considering it was outside of WWE and got the mainstream media attention, that's something that Vince McMahon and WWE would do. I applaud Jerry Lawler for that. The fact that he has wrestled a match every year for 50 years in the wrestling business, I respect him for that. Jerry Lawler played the prototypical, what's the word I'm looking for? The sleazy heel, I guess is the best way to put it.
Mm-hmm.
Where he would ogle the freaking puppies. Oh my God, that was annoying. I'm sorry. Jerry Lawler was annoying. He knew this. He knew the wrestling business. He was good at what he did. That point when he kept screaming puppies during the Attitude Era was the most cringe with Jerry Lawler. And I am still to this day very disappointed that one of the top 5 worst booking decisions in WrestleMania history happened at his expense. Jerry Lawler should have won his only appearance at WrestleMania, so we didn't have to listen to Michael Cole inside his coal mine talk about how he's undefeated at WrestleMania like The Undertaker. And it's not because of the coal mine, because the coal mine was one of the top 10 greatest moments in wrestling idea history.
And when Undertaker and Triple H destroyed the coal mine at WrestleMania 27 was my favorite moment of WrestleMania 27.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That and what was it? Ricardo Rodriguez when he was portraying Alberto Del Rio and came out to the ring with like a 98 Honda Civic.
Yes.
And he was dressed like Del Rio. I was like, Jesus. That's up there too. I'm sorry.
So we just did bring up WrestleMania. There was a lot of speculation going on about where WrestleMania 41 was going to be taking place and when it was going to be taking place. And we got those answers this week. Brainless one, what say you about these things?
Well, I was a little surprised, to say the least, that they did not do Minnesota, because that seemed like it was the place that they were going to do it next was Minnesota. I mean, there were some flirtations with like Tennessee announcing that they were going to do it at Tennessee at some point in the next couple of years. There was speculation that they were going to possibly do it outside of the U.S. I had a feeling that it was going to end up in Las Vegas. Why? I don't know. Call it a hunch. I think after, wasn't it Survivors, or not Survivors, it wasn't SummerSlam that they did in Las Vegas? Oh, no. They did that whole bit with Las Vegas to promote WrestleMania 40. And they made a whole big spectacle about that. Are you kidding me? This was a slam dunk decision. They made the right choice. I'm sorry, nothing against Minnesota, but has anybody seen that stadium in Vegas? How awesome that thing looks! And just think, that giant sphere is going to have the WWE logo just floating around. Or it's going to have The Rock's face. Or it's going to have Cody's face. Or it's just going to have Cassius Ohno's belly. I'm kidding. They're not going to do that.
Or what if they do the same theming that they did for WrestleMania 9, but in a grander fashion?
You're talking about a better version of WrestleMania 9?
Yes.
Well, I hate to break it to you. No matter what they do, WrestleMania 41 in Vegas is not going to be anywhere close to being as bad as WrestleMania 9 is or was, because unfortunately, and I don't mean to sound like a dick, the worst performer from WrestleMania 9 is no longer with us. That was the worst match at the worst WrestleMania, and in my opinion, the second worst wrestling match in WrestleMania history was The Undertaker and El Gigante.
I have a soft spot in my heart for that. But you know me, I have a soft spot in my heart for matches that are so bad that I enjoy them.
Cousin Jay, I'm actually glad that we mentioned this real quickly, and then we'll get back into the Vegas WrestleMania thing. I found out this week who was originally planned to be the Yeti in WCW.
Yeah?
El Gigante.
So he was supposed to be dry humping Hulk Hogan with the Giant.
They had to bring in some guy that I don't know who it was, some random dude that they had to bring in last minute to replace him. But when Giant Gonzalez got released from his contract, big surprise, in 1995, they called to bring him in as the Yeti. That gimmick, that just shows that gimmick was doomed to fail without even taking off. So the fact that thing came out and was dry humping the Hulk Hogan with the Giant just goes to show why it was a one and done type of deal. But
the Yeti.
But to get back to the whole thing, I think this is a great move for Las Vegas. I think this is going to be great. This is one of the things they were worried about with the whole East Coast thing. Right. That they were worried about, like, there's going to be storms and the bad weather and everything. And now we have WrestleMania on 420.
Yeah.
My biggest fear is that WrestleMania would finally fall on 420. Not like my birthday would ever fall on 420, luckily.
Close.
But yes. That's going to be one hell of a weekend because my birthday's on a Friday next year.
Yeah.
There's a very good chance I'm not going to remember turning 42. But at least by Tuesday, the following Tuesday. But I think this is great. I'm excited for this. That stadium is awesome. Whatever they're going to do is going to be great. I hope Shane McMahon returns to jump off the Sphere. As long as they promise not to hold any AEW shows at the Sphere and then turn the Sphere white, because we all know that they turn the Sphere white, Tony Khan's going to try to snort it.
All right, in the chat, a couple things I got to put out there. Nick Aldis just announced Cody is facing Logan Paul at King of the Ring. My guess, non-title match, even though both are champions.
And they're going to do winner takes all. And then everybody's going to be crying about Cody. Yeah, he sucks as a champion. They're going to put the title on Logan Paul just to piss everybody off.
Hey, you know what? Cody with the Homelander gimmick, winning the U.S. title is not the worst thing.
All I'm going to say is that everybody that's been crying about Cody Rhodes as champion, saying they miss Roman Reigns and all this stuff, let's see how many of them are rooting for Logan Paul at King of the Ring. That's what I want to know.
Chris Brown saying heavyweight championships on the line. Tim in the comments saying we could have had the Yeti versus the Shockmaster in a Punjabi prison match. That could have been something very interesting.
All I have to say about that idea was when the great Solomonster was asked a question by yours truly about who would win a match between El Gigante and the Great Khali, and he said nobody. Is all you need to know why a Yeti versus anybody in a Punjabi prison match. That would just be, there you go. Put El Gigante and the Great Khali in a Punjabi prison match. It would be the worst wrestling match of all time.
And I don't know if you could get much worse than what we saw between Batista and the Great Khali.
And it was
Punjabi prison.
And I'm guessing right now it was a combination of that Punjabi prison match. Wasn't that the first one? Or was the first one
actually ended up being Undertaker
in the Big Show?
Because I think Undertaker
had PTSD.
Said to Vince, like, yeah, I'm not going against that dude in the Punjabi prison. Can we figure out a way to get at least the Big Show in here? And I actually enjoyed him in the Big Show in the Punjabi prison.
Oh, they had great chemistry together when they worked together.
And then, I mean, we ended up getting Randy Orton versus the Jinder.
That was the greatest Punjabi prison match of all time. And that's only because we still have not gotten the Jinder versus Tony Khan in the Punjabi prison.
Or the Jinder versus The Rock in the Punjabi prison in India.
I'm telling you right now, Cousin Jay, they want me to get into an AEW pay-per-view. They give me the Jinder and Tony Khan in the Punjabi prison, and I will 1,000% tune in. I will pay the $50 to see that.
Okay.
Because what they have to do to make it like fair is they got to put a little 8-ball on the top of it and see if Tony actually climbs to the top of the Punjabi prison to get it.
Yes. So, it was heavily rumored that Minnesota was getting WrestleMania 41. There was even a person that was part of the General Assembly in Minnesota on the floor talking about them getting an event that the only thing bigger was the Super Bowl.
Super Bowl?
And it ended up not happening. Clearly, I'm sure there are a bunch of really pissed off politicians in Minnesota. And when it was explained why it didn't happen, basically it came down to, at least this was the explanation given to them, that was set up under a different regime. We would like to do a show here at some point in the future, but not next year. So clearly the deal was in place with Vince. Vince went away. Nick Khan and or Triple H said, I think Vegas is a better idea.
I do too.
And that's where they're going. So, but Minnesota, at least the folks that are kind of in the upper levels of government are at least trying to act not too pissed off, saying, well, they told us that they'll, they're going to consider us in the future. And it's like, you more or less had a promise, and now you're sitting there and you still have to kiss their butts because you don't want to piss them off and prevent yourself from getting it, getting WrestleMania in the future.
Gee, who does that sound like? That sounds like every Patriots fan in the state of Connecticut after Robert Kraft shoved his dick in their faces and then farted all over the place as he got a better stadium deal from Massachusetts.
And was in part, at least I believe, in part, the reason why the Whalers won. Governor John Rowland took his eye off the ball, was trying to get the Patriots into Hartford, and didn't try to keep the team that he already had in Hartford. By the way, I got to wear the franchise out this week as I went to see the Admirals play. Admirals are in the ECHL playoffs, baby.
Are you talking about the franchise 10 jersey?
Yes.
That's what I was hoping that you were going to say.
Yes.
Ronnie franchise, baby. Good shit. That is good shit. But that's the same thing. That's exactly what WWE did. They had a deal with Minnesota, and they're like, nah, fuck it. We're going to go to Vegas because Vegas is better. Yeah, no shit, Vegas is better. Just make sure that there's not certain people there on this trip. Got to make sure that Michael. There you go. There you go. You can have Michael Jordan show up at WrestleMania next year, and then they can stick that to Tony Khan.
LeBron James.
All I'm going to say is WWE just absolutely kills it. They had Jason Kelsey show up with Lane Johnson at WrestleMania in Philadelphia to help Rey Mysterio win. Love the fuck out of that. Patrick Mahomes was there playing a heel in Kansas City last week on Raw, helping Logan Paul. And this week, they were in Hartford, and Dan Hurley, the second greatest coach in UConn history, only behind Jim Calhoun, sorry, Gino, was there and was challenged for his national championship in a match against another champion, R-Truth.
My bad, dog.
I enjoyed the hell out of that. I love the fact that Dan Hurley was there. It made me so. I was like, national champion UConn. Yeah, that's right. You forgot to say 6-time, but that's okay.
Tim was there too. F and Mark's Hall of Famer Tim.
I saw. That's awesome, Timmy. You got to see a banger.
Yeah.
After banger. After banger. After banger. Also, everybody that was upset with Drew McIntyre leaving Monday Night Raw, getting called out by CM Punk, people were tweeting at him, and then he didn't come back. In defense of Drew McIntyre, as somebody who has driven through downtown Hartford a few times, or more than a few times,
yeah,
I can tell you right now, it is very good possibility he got lost.
Yes.
I was born and raised in Hartford, and I still get lost there.
Probably ended up on Flatbush Avenue and just, wrong part of town.
Yeah, what the hell is this? Walmart. He probably got in his car.
Where'd go?
He somehow ended up in freaking Bristol. What the hell is this? That's what I should have told. I should have tweeted at him like, bro, Plainville, J. Timbo's. Thank me later.
Yes.
That would have been. I didn't even think of that. It was bad enough when I found out that CM Punk was held captive in the headquarters in Stanford over the weekend. I think it was Sunday, or it was Sunday into Monday. I don't care. That was entertaining in its own right. Following him in his Facebook or his Instagram live was fantastic. Somebody needs to explain to me why there's all these refrigerators with nothing but sodas in them. Number two, with that being said, why hasn't WWE hired me? They don't even have to pay me. Just tell me where all these refrigerators with all the sodas are. And that's where my pay is. I will drink 37 sodas a day while working. You don't have to pay me a single dime, WWE. Orange soda, Pepsi, Mountain Dew, it doesn't matter. I'll drink it all.
Yeah.
But my favorite part was he shows up and he gets to where Bruce Pritchard is. And it's this office. And outside this office is just pictures. And nothing but pictures of brother love. And he goes, I wonder whose office this is. And he goes and he sees the sign that says Bruce Pritchard. So he goes into the office, he pulls out a piece of paper from the printer, and he writes it down. And I said, I can only imagine what he's writing in here. And then he wrote down Jim Hurd and put it where his name tag was on the door.
Yeah.
I had to get your reaction because I knew if anybody was going to get the joke, it was you.
Jim Hurd. That was Ric Flair's favorite head of WCW.
I want to.
He always talks like, why did the damn pizza guy get to be the head of a wrestling company? He asked me to cut my damn hair and wanted to turn me into a gladiator called Spartacus.
It's just they've been hitting on all cylinders. It's not even just the regular television stuff. It's everything they do backstage and all that stuff. Everything they do is it's turning into gold. It's just fantastic stuff. Like I said, I've never been happier to be a WWE fan, at least since the Attitude Era.
Yeah.
Yeah. Until Vince McMahon and Steve Austin ripped my heart out and threw it in my face at WrestleMania 17, obviously.
Yeah.
This was after Vince McMahon ripped my heart out by having Duke the Dumpster Droshi be the 7th person eliminated in the Gimmick Battle Royal. That was after Vince McMahon ripped my heart out, chewed it up, and spit it at me when he had the Dudley Boys lose to Edge and Christian in the TLC 2 match that night. My heart just couldn't take it anymore that night. And then he had Steve Austin turn and join forces with him, and I said, I'm done.
And I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, I think that was also the night where Lemmy could not remember all 4 words.
Look, they tried everything in their power to make up for all the other stuff that they did. Lemmy forgetting the words to his own song is up there. That's just as preposterous as all the lies that Hulk Hogan said, especially, I mean, the egregious one of him saying that he got The Undertaker signed 2 years after The Undertaker signed, a year after he got The Undertaker in trouble for a tombstone that he delivered to him. Or
my next brother.
Or how he talked about Andre the Giant and like, oh, Andre was great at everything. Great 500-pounder. Oh, at least he was 700 pounds this time, right, Hogan?
Yeah.
And he didn't kill him this time either.
See? Hey.
I just want to know.
Hey.
Does Hulk Hogan not remember WrestleMania 4? Does he not remember the fact that there was a tournament for the championship? It's not like Ted DiBiase and the Invincible Man John Cena were the ones that were taking out Randy Savage in the main event. It was Andre, and Hogan was helped to bring out to avenge Andre, but yet he died at WrestleMania, or 9 days after WrestleMania 3.
And oh, by the way, they didn't have a match in February of 1988, you know, like 10 and a half, 11 months after, you know, WrestleMania 3. And they didn't have another match in the cage not that long after WrestleMania 4. Didn't happen.
Didn't they get counted out in the tournament of WrestleMania 4?
Yes. One of the grossest bad booking things Vince McMahon ever did. If you're going to have people get a bye through the first round, you're telling me that they're the number 1 and 2 seed. Why does the 1 and 2 seed face each other in the first match of the second round?
I can't give you an answer, Cousin Jay, because I'm not.
Because there is no good answer. Vince could have booked this differently instead of having the 2 of them get counted out and go, you know, straight through to the second round against each other.
I could have done a whole top 10 on that. I could probably do a top 100 stupid ideas Vince McMahon has had. But then we'd be here all night.
That's all?
I'm being generous.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure I could do another We Didn't Start the Fire with just all the Vince McMahon stupid shit he's come up with.
Well, speaking of stupid shit, I had such high hopes. High hopes. And here we are, 3 years later, Gable Steveson let go from WWE. The dude seemed like tailor-made for sports entertaining me. He was big, brash, and like, you know, seemed like a character without even having to try. But apparently was the shit so much in the ring, even after a couple of years of training, that they let him go. He was drafted to Monday Night Raw and never had a match on the main roster.
To be fair, Arturo Ruiz also got drafted to Monday Night Raw and never had a match in the main roster. That's the only person I can think of that's in that same situation.
I didn't even remember his Arturo Ruiz.
Honestly, it's the only reason I knew is because it randomly popped up on Instagram earlier this week. They're like, remember when this guy got drafted to Raw and did absolutely nothing?
But Gable Steveson had, like, there were high hopes for him. You know, as much as we were talking about Jade Cargill earlier and her maybe not being, like, super ready for prime time, Jade at least got, you know, into the ring, and she has a presence that you're like going, you know what? Even if she isn't the greatest in the ring, you could see that she is a damn star. I think
She's only gonna get better.
if Steveson even had that, they would have kept him around. They did not see enough of that. They didn't see enough of anything. They paid the man 3 years for nothing to have a match against Baron Corbin.
My favorite part was the fact that they released him 3 weeks after he missed the deadline to qualify for the Olympics in 2024.
They told him that, like, there was a thing not that long ago that said that, like, I think they just pushed him through and said, like, oh, yeah, he's got, like, I think a waiver to be on the Olympic team. So, I don't know. Even so, it's sad to see all that hype and money and time wasted.
Well, just realize, Cousin Jay, for every Kurt Angle and Ken Shamrock, there's a Gable Steveson and Ronda Rousey.
Right.
Just like for every Ken Griffey Sr. and Ken Griffey Jr., there is a Phil and Chris Sims.
To be fair, Chris Sims did get to the playoffs once.
You're right. I should do a little.
He got absolutely destroyed in a game and never saw a field again. But
I'll say it in terms of people understand a little bit better, a little bit more common and recent. It's like LeBron and his son.
Bronny?
Yes, that kid.
Yeah.
The kid who was projected, who they were like, oh, he's going to be a first-round pick and averages 5 points a game in USC.
Right.
Kid's still in the transfer portal because nobody wants him.
Well, I mean, he did almost die on the court.
I understand, but at that point, if you're either you know, just don't play then. It's not worth it.
I mean, he's not like Hamlin, I guess.
I mean, and honestly, like I understand that the kid from what was it, Virginia Beach, that had it happen, and when he was at Florida or Florida State, and then he transferred to Kansas State and led them to like the Elite Eight.
Right.
People just react differently. It's just he wasn't a good basketball player in the first place. He was only there at USC because his dad's LeBron James. Let's be serious for 2 seconds. Sorry, I'm not sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. But honestly, like, I'm not really that sad about Gable Steveson leaving because you've been there for as long as you have. You have to show more than just a match with Baron Corbin. Gable, you were so underwhelming, you actually had less matches than Kazarni.
That's something.
That is something. It's bad. And you know what? We were talking about the bad signings and all this stuff. And Mike Rainey was talking about Mercedes Moné, formerly Sasha Banks. And I was actually thinking about it because I saw a post on Facebook today that asked this question. Is Mercedes Moné the worst signing ever in professional wrestling? Because she is signed from 3 to 5 years for $10 million a year. She was brought in with all this hype, and not only has she not gotten into the ring, but her segments are the lowest rating, or some of the lowest rating segments in AEW. She got attacked by a masked person, and only one other thing on their YouTube page got less views than it. Okada fighting an actual local competitor jobber got twice as many views than Mercedes Moné. I'm just trying to wonder now, do you think AEW now regrets bringing in Mercedes-Benz to do absolutely nothing but sit in the garage and talk?
No, because I mean, he sometimes people like expensive action figures, even if they're not very good. Ooh, look at that! You know, both you and I were like fine performer, difficult to deal with, walks out on her job, not worth the headache. Don't know why anybody would want to sign her to anything. Good on her for getting a whole bunch of money. Bad on Tony Khan for not seeing like, oh, yeah, she was so difficult that it's not worth the headache. I don't think he would recognize that this was a bad idea, still is a bad idea. I mean, heck, I don't even know if she's been medically cleared. They specifically said when they did their last show, she was not medically cleared to compete. So they're sitting there rolling the dice that like she'll be ready for this TBS title match and she'll get the medical clearance for All In.
She hasn't done anything. Just having her talk. No, you should have just not brought her out. You tried to pop a number in Boston. That's your problem, Tony. Is that you're more concerned about popping a number by doing something stupid like bringing in Mercedes Moné and paying her $10 million a year. You get nothing out of her. Jay, I'm not even kidding. She is literally one of the least viewed people on their YouTube page. John Cena's a Hollywood superstar, shows up maybe once or twice a year in WWE. I would pay him $10 million because it's fucking John Cena. You know who's not John Cena? Sasha Banks. The fact that woman walked out of WWE twice, just got up, took her ball, and left. And then and gets rewarded with a $10 million a year contract. Make it make sense.
You play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. Tony Khan's going to win stupid prize because guess what? I was reading this week that Warner Brothers Discovery is looking to cut their budget. You know, it appears they're going to lose out on the NBA. that might bode well for AEW, but if you're losing money and you're cutting costs, the money Tony Khan is hoping to get for his next TV rights deal might not be what he's hoping for. And I'm going to guess the other cable networks out there probably aren't going to be paying that.
No.
I don't think so. I think he either makes a deal with Warner Brothers Discovery that might not be, that probably won't be exactly what he was hoping for. You know, he was hoping to get the company to, be profitable within 5 years. I don't think it'll be happening unless he himself continues to make significant cuts from the roster.
Well, it's going to be hard when half the roster's hurt.
Well, I mean, what one person that he won't have to cut, it looks like, unfortunately, is Chuck Taylor. Sounds like Chuck Taylor is legit injured and legit end of his career. And that's a bummer. I enjoyed the Best Friends.
I love the fact that it was, now that I know what happened, I'm glad that it was him and Trent Beretta in Chuck E. T's last match. I applaud them for that. If you got a chance to pick somebody to have your last match with, why wouldn't you have your best friend?
Yes.
And put him over properly, too, Chuck Taylor. And that's a shame. It really is, because, like I said, the best friends for the longest time was my favorite faction. I have no idea what the hell they're doing with Orange Cassidy. I know that he was talking to the well, he can't be Voldemort because he's not really Voldemort.
Right.
We got to come up with some kind of dastardly nickname for what's his face? Why am I blanking on him right now? Johnny Polo, or not Johnny Polo, Cyrus the Virus, or not Cyrus the Virus.
Oh yeah, Don Callis.
Don Callis, thank you. We need to come up with a dastardly name for Don Callis. Because the dastardly Voldemort is Vince McMahon. The Canadian Voldemort is redacted. I guess we can't really call him dastardly because then he would be associated with scumbags.
Yeah.
Like the flying Voldemort or the super flying Voldemort. But I mean, we need to I want to come up with something for Don Callis. That's going to be my new goal. I'm going to come up with a nickname for Don Callis. But
Chris Brown referring to him as Dumbass Don.
I want something like in the Snidely. There we go. He's going to be the Snidely Don Callis. Don't think I don't remember Snidely Whiplash.
Yeah.
It's another goat. Just like Boris and Natasha. And Dick Dastardly, which is the greatest cartoon name ever. And his dog Muttley. See, I can't laugh like him that much.
You know what? The only laugh better than Muttley, in my view, would be Scooby-Doo. Good one, Raggy.
Raggy, you want a ruby rack? Yeah. All these years, yeah, I kind of had a feeling they were about marijuana. Chasing ghosts and eating, always constantly eating snacks. Yeah, definitely stoners.
Talking about the dastardly Voldemort. John Laurinaitis, and WWE are all doing their damnedest to force Janelle Grant and pressure Janelle Grant into arbitration. They believe that they could get her to settle out of court for a lot less money than if she goes forward. And I say to all of them, screw you, pay Janelle her money. I don't care if you try to brandish us a letter saying Janelle loves Vince. Even if she did love Vince, somebody saying that they love somebody and then that person sex trafficking them to take advantage of that is bullshit.
Yep, I agree.
They need to all pay. They need to all pay.
I just hate the fact that Laryngitis keeps flip-flopping like he's the big show back in WWE.
And I'm going to support Vincent Kennedy McMahon.
He can get fucked of all of them. Of all the people he can get fucked the most. Fuck him. John Laryngitis ass motherfucker. How do you really feel, Brainless One? He's a piece of shit. All the other stories I heard about him before all this Janelle Grant shit, he's a piece of shit. I heard what Jim Ross doesn't like him. Jim Ross can't say a nice thing about him. Jim Ross, who can say a nice thing about anybody, can't say a nice thing about John Laryngitis.
I hope Janelle takes them to court, and I hope she gets all the money that the dastardly Voldemort has made from the sale of WWE. I know she won't get that much, but that's what I'm hoping.
I hope she takes him to the cleaners. I hope Sorry, excuse me. Sorry. I hope
Prince
that.
Valium. That's right. That Prince Valium sometimes too. Come back.
My whole thing is that I lost my train of thought because I yawned. I'm sorry.
Your whole thing with Janelle Grant and the thing that's gone on and the money she should get and all the crap that literally the crap.
I hope that Laryngitis' wife, the Bella twins' mother, or Garcia twins, whatever the hell they're calling themselves, I hope she takes him to the cleaners too. I hope she does to him what all of Ric Flair's ex-wives did to Ric Flair, and just take him for everything he's worth, even though he's out spending $1,500 at Italian bistros on booze and garlic knots, and then offering to tip the girl $1,000 to call the guy an asshole. Woo!
Mm.
You want to ride Space Mountain? Woo! I am not cut off, even though I had 27 beers. Woo!
Chris Brown asking who gets more money, E. Jean Carroll or Janelle Grant? E. Jean Carroll, I don't think in the end is going to see any of that money from the Donald. The Donald is going to fight that in court, and probably if he settles out of court, it's not going to be anything like super substantial. If you've listened to that woman talk about this stuff with Donald, quite honestly, it sounds super suspect whether or not anything actually happened. Because she changes her story all the time. All that being said, the Donald is Teflon Don.
He's doing everything in his power to make sure that I don't vote for myself in November. To be fair, I mean, Joe Biden's also doing a hell of a job to make sure that I'm not going to vote for myself in November, and it's not because I'm going to vote for Joe Biden. There's not enough. Let me tell you something right now. There's not enough money in this world. There's not enough weed in this world. And most importantly, and I cannot stress this enough, there's not enough chocolate chip cookies in this world that convinced me to vote for Joe Biden in November. And even if there was enough cookies in this world that could convince me, I'm sure that it would cost me way too much in Joe Biden's America anyway.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to predict this and make this political. I apologize. But you know what? I am justified in this because if Stormy Daniels can come out there and mention WWE in her testimony, just like Hulk Hogan can come out in his lawsuit against Gawker and Bubba the Love Sponge and go under oath and tell the judge that Terry Bollea's penis and Hulk Hogan's penises are two different sizes. Stormy Daniels can go out there and testify and say that Donald Trump watched WWE, had his head shaved, and that's why he knew how to handle a hooker or a stripper or whatever the hell she is. I cannot believe that. I cannot believe this. 2 weeks, in less than 2 weeks, WWE has been brought up during the NFL draft and the Donald Trump trial in New York. Are you fucking kidding me? What world are we living in? This is like years ago when people are like, probably if you go to everyone in the world and ask them if they knew who Hulk Hogan was, 1/4 of the world would know who Hulk Hogan was.
That's insane.
I am now convinced that a lot more people are going to know who WWE is. It's all over ESPN. They're in cahoots with UFC. They've had Patrick Mahomes and Dan Hurley and Jason Kelsey and all these other people, Jelly Rolls, all that Monday Night Raw wrestling premium live events. Stormy Daniels is now under oath on the affidavit or whatever the hell the thing that the stenographer does.
Right.
It's
the
there.
Court record. Yeah.
The court record. And it's under official court record. WWE and Vince McMahon were mentioned in the Donald Trump Stormy Daniels trial. After Tony Khan went on the NFL Network and said that WWE is the Harvey Weinstein of professional wrestling. I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, Cousin Jay. I know that bad publicity is better than no publicity. I don't know about that.
So another thing that is allegedly going to happen soon, I am not a fan of, but allegedly, Saudi Arabia and their deal with WWE is going to be, quote unquote, enhanced Terry Bollea to Hulk Hogan size, it sounds like. They are hoping to get the Royal Rumble. They're hoping to get WrestleMania in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia.
No.
For all the shows that they have done in Saudi Arabia, I think the first handful of them made more combined for WWE than the first 38 WrestleManias. I do not ever, unless many things within the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia change, I will not watch WrestleMania in Saudi Arabia. The women's matches will just, they won't be able to perform how they normally perform. And it's not just the clothing, it's how they perform in the ring. They do different things when they're in Saudi Arabia. And you would be asking your women to take like a large back seat to do that. On top of the fact that they killed a journalist who spoke out against the government.
All I'm going to say is...
I would not watch that at all. I don't watch the Saudi Arabia stuff they do now. They had the greatest Rumble, biggest, ginormous Royal Rumble of all time where they got, you know, their version of Yokozuna in there. And they tried to get the Ultimate Warrior. I mean, he was only dead a couple years. They could have revived him possibly for that.
With the powers in the galaxies, the Ultimate Warrior will rise again.
I don't want to see it. I don't think we're going to see it anytime soon. Unfortunately, I think we will see it sometime in the next decade.
What if, this is a big what if, what if the Ultimate Warrior did come back from the dead to wrestle at WrestleMania in Saudi Arabia? Would you tune in?
No.
Okay.
No.
What if Hulk Hogan can have another WrestleMania match against somebody ridiculous? Like a dead Yokozuna.
I'll wait till I get to heaven.
Well, at least one of us is going to heaven when they're gone.
There's still a shot for you.
Yeah, no. After that game at Yankee Stadium in 2003, there's no shot for me. I'm sorry.
Hey. Jesus said it's available to everybody.
Jesus doesn't DoorDash with the brainless one. Oh,
he's always there. Always there.
You wouldn't believe how many people are called a certain thing that is not mentally appreciative when you refer to people when they drive a certain type of way.
Okay. Gotcha.
That's all I'm going to say. Let's just put it this way. There's a lot of people in Virginia who drive who definitely took the short bus to school every day.
Yeah?
That's all I'm going to say. Yeah?
So Brainless One, do you believe that there will be a WrestleMania in Saudi Arabia?
Yeah, there's too much money to be made. Could you imagine that payoff for the person in the main event of the WrestleMania in Saudi Arabia? There would actually be blood money because I'm pretty sure that people would be stabbing each other and then The Rock's going to end up getting that main event anyway. Because it's The Rock, and that's what the final boss does. We'll be getting The Undertaker and Hulk Hogan.
Well, the Crown Prince really said he wants to see you, Hulkster, and you, Dead Man, in a match. He said that this was a match to the death. And since we know Hulkamania will never die and The Undertaker's undead,
We need to
the
bring
match
Ric
may
Flair in
never
there.
end.
So what you're
brother.
saying is that Ric Flair needs to be in this match so somebody could die.
Yes.
Okay, fair enough.
And perhaps Bobby Fish, even though,
Even though he's booked for Abraham Lincoln in the mid card.
he at this point in his life, he's the lesser son of Adam and Eve as far as being over. But
honest to goodness, I don't want to see it. And if they do WrestleMania in Saudi Arabia, it's just going to be like all the other last few that I've had where I watched the Bianca Belair match for obvious reasons. And then there'll be like maybe 1 or 2 matches from the card that I will watch. But I will not watch WrestleMania as a whole if it's in Saudi Arabia. But obviously, I have to watch the Bianca Belair matches. I have no choice.
yes.
Not that.
Otherwise, you would have a very upset Kinsley.
Yes. And now she's also a fan of Jade Cargill too, so I'm very happy about that.
All right.
I was like, see, you're more of a fan of WWE than an AEW fan, Kinsley. You actually appreciate talent.
Yeah.
When it's there. So hey, as long as she's a role model to my daughter, that's all that matters to me.
Yep.
And since we were talking about some of the legends in wrestling, Jim Cornette this week on his podcast was asked his opinion about a certain wrestling announcer, Samantha Irvin, who's been getting a lot of criticism from people that really shouldn't be putting their 2 cents about her. And Jim Cornette said, I actually am a fan of hers. She adds enough to this thing with her passion, the way that she talks. She adds an element. She's almost like how Bruce Buffer was in WCW, or for UFC. Because I always get Michael and Bruce Buffer mixed up sometimes. But he was comparing her to Bruce Buffer, and that's what kind of an announcer she is, to where she replied and thanked Jim Cornette for the positive compliment that he gave to her. What are your thoughts about the king of the cult of Cornette coming out and giving high praise to Samantha Irvine?
I think it's great. Wrestling fans were wrestling fans, and then, they turned it in a completely negative direction when it came to Cornette, and her accepting the high praise from a man who's been in the professional wrestling industry for a long time.
40 years.
Historian, that's what I've been told by Dark Side of the Ring.
He's swinging the tennis racket. Picturing Russo's face right in front of it.
With Cornette, yeah, he said some things that would be in the current culture not completely acceptable. And he was doing it as a wrestling character announcer. And to the fact that people put a whole bunch of stock in those sort of things, and the people that have gone after Samantha for saying thank you to somebody paying her a compliment, it's like, you know what? If you looked into your closet, in my closet, in this closet, guess what? There's bones in everybody's closet. There's skeletons in everybody's closet. And and they'd find some bad shit about you, right?
Could you imagine the closets at the Clinton house? Sorry.
But the thing is, Jim Cornette has never been afraid to be out there and give his opinion on things. And even as a wrestling character, going out there and giving his opinion on things. And as much as I have a lot of disagreement with him, the dude knows what the hell he's talking about when it comes to professional wrestling. And when you're talking about somebody who's added something to the presentation hey, somebody who has made a living in professional wrestling for 40 years says, I think you're doing a good job. You're not supposed to say yes to it. You're not supposed to say, oh, thank you. She didn't say anything about he's the greatest manager of all time. I love his style. Just said thank you for the compliment. And
I appreciate it coming from you. She did add the fact that it was coming from him, though. I'll give her that.
But, I mean, again, a guy who's been making his living in professional wrestling for 40 years.
One of the greatest managers, people. This isn't like this guy was just a bum in professional wrestling like Kazarni. This man was a manager. He wasn't just a manager. He was one of the greatest managers. He managed arguably the greatest tag team of all time, the Midnight Express. And I don't think anybody realizes what kind of a task it is to manage beautiful Bobby Eaton. Just saying. Still to this day, the most underrated wrestler in the history of professional wrestling, Bobby Eaton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, I mean, I love Heyman. Heyman has said stuff I'd say just as bad over the years as Cornette, but for whatever reason, Cornette gets a bulk of the hate, while Heyman gets a whole bunch of love.
It's because, you know, Paul Heyman gave everybody ECW and all Jim Cornette gave everybody was Smoky Mountain Wrestling. And people just, and it's because Paul Heyman doesn't go out there each and every week and absolutely eviscerate Kenny and the Bucks with everything they do. Jeez Louise, what does that sound like?
Right.
I don't know. Do you know anybody who goes out there each and every week and eviscerates the Kenny and the Bucks? I mean, I don't do it with Kenny anymore, but do we know anybody who does that each and every week with the Bucks? Do we know anybody that just says the Bucks are the worst tag team of all time?
I don't know. I don't know.
They couldn't draw money if you fucking spotted them a piece of paper and a green crayon?
But
can't even spell ratings.
I think it's great that Cornette has an appreciation for Samantha Irvin. I think Samantha Irvin deserves those accolades. When I went to WrestleMania, like, clearly I had heard her on TV, but like being there in person in a big stadium where, like, I mean, she filled the stadium with her, like, gusto for her calls for every match. She was great. Speaking of her, though, you know, they flip-flop these announcers an awful lot, ring announcers, and it sounds like Mike Rome is heading himself down to NXT, and they have brought Alicia Taylor up to the main roster to be the ring announcer for the SmackDown. So
I liked her down in NXT. I think this is a great addition. And the fact that they're making a big deal, like, oh, they're going to be two black women that are the first time ever that two black women are the ring announcers in professional wrestling. Who cares?
They're both really
good. I thought there was a long time that's how good Alicia Taylor was. I thought it was Samantha Irvin down there. She is that good. I don't care what they are or what they look like. If they're good, that's all that matters. Is she qualified to do this? Yes, I could tell you. Listen,
highly qualified.
She's done an excellent job down at NXT. I congratulate her for getting this job. She deserves this. And she's probably doing it right now on SmackDown as we speak. So good on her for getting this job. I'm happy for her.
And nothing against Rome. I think Mike Rome's been really good.
This is just an opportunity for her to have a chance, and Mike Rome gets a chance to work down in NXT and not end up like clothesline off the ropes. Hot tag there by Roman Reigns. We're going to commercial.
Right.
Kevin Patrick.
Yeah.
The Robbie Ross of professional wrestling.
Robbie Ross is a treasure.
No, you're the only one who thinks that Robbie Ross is a treasure, and you can't tell me otherwise.
You're probably right.
Robbie Ross is your Duke Drosy. Yeah! Robbie Ross is Drosy. Robbie Ross is Drosy. Ah. No, I can't even disrespect Robbie Ross that way. Nobody's Duke Drosy.
Except for Duke Drosy, and then Duke Drosy himself last year by getting in the ring again.
If I memory serves me correctly, the mouth breather was a World Series champion. He was on the 13 or 18 team, correct?
13, yeah.
Then yes, he is definitely more over than Duke Drosy. So you got me there.
Yeah.
All Duke Drosy ever did was wrestle in a Royal Rumble and was like the 6th or 7th guy eliminated in a gimmick battle royal, which saw the Repo Man go over the top rope like Santino Marella in the Royal Rumble.
I wasn't ready.
I wasn't ready. And they did my boy Sheamus so dirty. Ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Brainless one. That's all I got for my notes. What do you have left, sir?
I only have a couple of things, and they're not really notes. I still have my top 10, and then I have obviously my good, my bad, and brainless.
Yeah.
So let's get into the top 10 list.
All right.
So we talked about Mercedes Moné and whether or not she was the worst signing for AEW if they've regretted on that decision. Well, thinking about that made me think about other really shitty signings in wrestling history. So that's what I did. I came up with the top 10 worst signings in wrestling history.
Okay.
Number 10, Dr. Death Steve Williams to WWE.
Rip.
Not because of the fact that, Dr. Death wasn't a main event guy. It's because their bright idea was to bring in Steve Williams and have him win Tough Enough. And then he tore like his quad or something like that.
Yeah.
In the match. So yeah, Dr. Death Steve Williams' career was over after that horrible thing with Bart Gunn. So I'm going to call that the worst deal, especially because he was so high money. Number 9, Top Dollar. Guy was so bad he got released from WWE twice. Number 8, Lex Luger. Did anybody have a less anticlimactic run in WWE than Lex Luger in the mid-90s? When he came in as the narcissist staring at himself in the mirror. And then his biggest moment was when he body slammed 900-pound Yokozuna on the USS Intrepid on the 4th of July as Hulk Hogan cheered from the background, even though he was in WCW.
And Yokozuna died like 3 days later.
Thank you. I was hoping you were going to say that.
That's
Top
what I
notch.
hear.
Dynamite dropping, Monty. Those broadcasting schools are finally paying off.
Yes.
Number 7, I don't know if you remember this guy. His name was Chris Harris.
Yes.
But he was Braden Walker in in ECW. I think he was part of like America's Most Wanted or something like that in NXT or TNA.
Mm-hmm.
I think with Bobby Roode, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
I don't remember. Well, anyway, they brought him in as this big free agent signing, and then he did absolute shit when they realized that he was Manila folder face and had the personality of a Manila folder. So yeah, that was number 7. Number 6, Parker Boudreaux. You got to be a really bad signing if you got released by both WWE and AEW in about a year.
Yeah.
Number 5, Cain Velasquez. And I put Cain Velasquez as number 5 because they paid him $2.5 million to lose a match to Brock Lesnar.
In Saudi Arabia.
And then we never saw him again. Number 4, Sin Cara. Only because of the fact that Triple H sat there and touted Sin Cara as his first big-time international signing as the COO of WWE, just to have it flop just like him making his way to the ring. That is why Sin Cara is number 4 on my list.
Hey, in some way, shape, or form, Sin Cara is part of the current Bloodline storyline because of Camacho and his allegiance with at the time it was
Hunico.
They called him Sin Cara Negro, right?
Something like that.
Because there was the Sin Cara with the black mask and the black stuff, and the Sin Cara with the blue stuff, the blue face and the blue trunks.
So I just call him Sin Cara Hunico. Because that's who he was. He was Hunico before he became Sin Cara, so now he's Sin Cara Hunico.
Yes.
I think that was the dude that beat the shit out of Simon Gotch, too.
I believe you're correct.
But yes, he is number 4 because, like I said, he got gotched. Number 3, and I think this is a no-brainer, Ronda Rousey. Ronda Rousey, more like Ronda Lousy. Am I right?
Am I right?
Yeah, her first run in WWE was okay. That second run was just abysmal. I'm embarrassed to call myself a wrestling fan after witnessing it. And just the fact that she has been sour grapes and just been napalming every bridge and back to WWE on her way out, basically giving us the piece of shit Drew Gulak and what he really is, which is why she's only number 3 and that there's at least 2 more people ahead of her with 1 and 2. But speaking of number 2, this person's not a person who is, well, they may have wrestled in a wrestling match. They may or may not have wrestled in that wrestling match in a New York Giants uniform and helmet. The same helmet that he needs every day in his life anyway, just without the Giants logo. But the second worst free agent signing in the history of professional wrestling is Vince Russo. Shit stain himself. Because that man is napalm not 1, not 2, but 3 different wrestling promotions. Now, I know that people are like, geez, Brainless one. If Vince Russo is number 2 and all those other wrestlers are 3 through 10, who in the world could be your number 1? Who is the worst free agent signing in the history of professional wrestling? Cousin Jay, would you like to take a guess, sir?
Kazarni.
Kazarni is actually...
I'm close.
He wrestled 2 matches and beat MVP. That's more than Gable Stevenson, okay? Because at least Kazarni lost in a battle royal to determine the number 1 contender for the ECW championship, which was his second and only in his last match.
Was that the one he got eliminated? Was Great Khali the one who eliminated him?
I think so. I don't even remember him actually getting eliminated. They said he got eliminated and nobody said anything. I was like, that basically describes his entire run in WWE. The man had more vignettes than wrestling matches. He looked like freaking the Tiger King if he was a professional wrestler, for crying out loud. But no, but unfortunately, Kazarni actually having a victory over MVP makes him not the worst signing in wrestling history. That and he actually wrestled in a battle royal to determine the number 1 contendership. The worst, and I repeat, the worst signing in the history of professional wrestling was indeed made by Tony Khan. But no, it wasn't the $10 million Mercedes that's been sitting in his garage since he debuted it a couple months ago. It is the Young Bucks as the worst signing in the history of professional wrestling. Because there's no way, shape, or form that any self-respecting wrestling fan promoter in the history of this business would ever not only sign these guys, but make them EVPs. They are literally the most overrated tag team in the history of professional wrestling. They are an embarrassment to just human beings, for crying out loud. And even to this day, even though one's older by a lot of years to the other one, I still have no idea which one is Nick and which one is Matt, and I don't care. I can tell you the difference between Jimmy and Jay Uso, and I can point out all the differences between the 2 of them. I can't do that with the Young Bucks because their heads are up each other's asses. So yes, the worst free agent signing in the worst free agent signing in the history of professional wrestling was Team Jannetty and AEW. I told you I was going to try to go an entire episode without shitting on AEW. So I guess we're going to have to try for episode 360 because it's not going to happen this week.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what's going to happen? The only way that can happen is if they don't have Collision, Dynamite, or Rampage at all. And then they just take Tony Khan's phone away from him from a week. And then we could go an entire week without me talking about AEW. But I'm certain I'm going to say something like the sky is blue on Twitter and some AEW dweeb fuck is going to be like, hey man, you can't say that about the sky. You got to go watch Okada and Omega in the Tokyo Dome. That was 75,000 stars by Dave Meltzer. I don't want to listen to a 70-year-old virgin tell me what kind of matches I need to like or not and give me these stupid freaking star ratings. Get the fuck out of here. Like I give a shit about Dave Meltzer. Like I give a shit about Sean Ross Sapp. Fuck him too. Did you watch the Tokyo Dome? Okada and Omega? Fuck you. Don't care. Just like I don't need to know who this guy is from CMLL that's wrestling some random match for the first time in his entire life on an episode of Rampage, and you have to tell me that my fingers must be broken to Google it. I don't give a crap enough to check out El Pollo Loco and see what he has done in CMLL, okay? I don't care. I know who Tama
Crazy Chicken.
I don't need to know. I know who Tama Tonga is because I know who Haku is. And I also know that Tama Tonga was one of the original members of the Bullet Club. Yeah, don't tell me that I don't know anything outside of WWE, you freaking pretentious, twat-waffling AEW fans. Y'all are the Bret Halls of fucking wrestling fans. I want you all to know that. That's a horrible person to be associated with. That's like being freaking associated with the Canadian Voldemort. But I think on that note, Cousin Jay, it's time for the good, the bad. And obviously the brainless me.
Yeah.
So, Cousin Jay, what do you got for your good this week?
You know, nothing brought me more happiness out of professional wrestling this week than seeing a toddler in sitting in his seat and bumping when Jey Uso came out for his match at Backlash. It was so good. I was like, see, this is one of those moments that I'm glad and happy to be a wrestling fan. This is something I can point to and be like, see, it brings people together, young and old alike. It's the greatest thing.
Good shit.
Yeah.
That's a hell of a pick.
I just want to add something in here that has nothing to do with anything else. Today at the TV station, we did a story about a soccer league in our area that operates out of a storage locker. Which I brought up in the meeting that I was like, yes, I have been to a couple of wrestling shows in a storage locker. I didn't mention anything about the odoriferous emanations from the ring announcer or
kitty litter
the
guy.
bag of kitty litter in front of us. But I did pull up some pictures from when we were at said show, one of the said shows in the storage locker.
Such good shit, pal.
I just had to bring that up.
Yeah?
Yeah.
For my good for this week, I got to go with the fans in France. They were just wonderful. All of their chants in the French accent. I loved it. I'm giving honorable mention note for Captain Cupcake for finally opening up and admitting that he is the fat fuck that he is. And I demand an apology from him live on SmackDown one of these weeks. And then he's going to unblock us on Twitter for the unjustified blocking from years ago. But I am also giving an honorable mention to CM Punk because that whole thing with him inside the WWE headquarters in Stanford was just exceptional, and he topped it off by really making me laugh with the Jim Herd sign on Bruce Pritchard's office door. All
right, Chris Brown saying AJ Styles versus Cody was his good for this week.
5-star match.
Yeah.
AJ Styles' first 5-star match in WWE. His match with John Cena at the Royal Rumble should have been 5 stars, and I'm surprised it wasn't. What do you got for your bad?
Like you were saying, as much as early in the week, you're like, oh no, hey, Ric Flair is the leader in the clubhouse for Brainless this week. There were a whole bunch of other things that came up that I'm like, well, it's not quite as clear cut as I thought it was going to be. All that being said, now that we have heard the full story, and it sounds like it's pretty true, because you got multiple people coming out saying this. Drew Gulak, you don't do that stuff to fellow performers. I mean, that is a high level of douchery. That, like, I hope you repent of the crap you did before karma comes and finds you. Or I should say Satan comes and finds you. Because it's not going to be good. You getting released right now, and guess what? You most likely not working in pro wrestling again, unless it's like, you know, you're doing like Alberto Del Rio shows where like there's 20 people in the gym and they barely even know who you are. That's what you're going to get. So, Drew Gulak, you get my bad for this week.
And all I can add to that, because that is also my bad for this week, is, I mean, it's warranted. I'm sorry. This was absolutely warranted. He did. I'm sorry. I watched the video of when he spiked the dude in the ground. This is just, it was a bad look for him. And it made Ronda Rousey look good. And the only other thing I need to do to add this is that any other week, this would have been my Brainless.
But Ric Flair.
The limousine riding, jet flying, kiss stealing, wheeling, dealing, son of a gun.
It's a clean sweep. I mean, as much as there were these things like Drew Gulak, you know, the fan that harassed Sky Blue and got himself kicked out of the arena, you know, there were so many things in this where you're just like, maybe I need to rethink it. It's like, no, Ric Flair, dude, like, I can't watch any of his old matches the same way anymore. I just can't. I mean, it's not like Canadian Voldemort where I can't watch the match, but like there's a different feeling when I watch them now. Like I don't feel sorry when Shawn Michaels says, "I love you, I'm sorry."
I laugh my ass off because I know what's coming. Bam, slam, sweet gym music.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Bucks, for ruining this move. And it's really bad because he did exactly what he said he was going to do. He came out and tried to make himself look like the victim in this, and then he got served crow in the worst possible way. And oh, by the way, the Dirt Sheets decided at that point, after the video of him acting like an asshole in front of these people in the restaurant, would be the perfect time to tell everybody he had a heart attack in the ring in 2022 in that last match he had. Why? What does this do to help? Like, are we supposed to feel sympathy for this man? Just like we're supposed to feel sympathetic when the people from Dark Side of the Ring and Dwayne didn't want to do him as part of the whole 4-episode series for the death of ECW. I'm sorry, of WCW. After they found out, after they told everybody how much of a piece of shit Ric Flair really was. This is bad. You spent $1,500 on a place that sells pizzas and garlic knots. You're not buying a lot of pizza and garlic knots with that $1,500. I mean, you could. I would. But that's just me. But, come on. Ric Flair, as long as you live, as long as there's oh my God, I keep saying ECW. As long as there are AEW fans, as long as Hulk Hogan is allowed to talk in front of a live mic, and Tony Khan is still allowed to exist, you will all be part of my Brainless. And that says a lot that an AEW fan was considered for my Brainless and got shut out completely. So take that for what it's worth, Drew Gulak and Ric Flair.
Yeah.
So if you like what you've seen, whether you are a first-time watcher or a continuous fan, make sure you like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, X, follow us on the Instagram, and subscribe to us on YouTube at the letter T, the letter H, the letter E, the letter F, the letter N, MARKS, the FM marks. If you like, follow and subscribe to us, we will do the same back. That has always been our
mantra. And make sure you set up notifications so that when we are live, you will be notified that we are alive, whether it's on the X, whether it's on the YouTubes, or whether it's on the Facebooks. So that way you can join in and talk about our favorite sport we all love to hate, professional
wrestling. And the New York Jets football.
Yeah.
Gotta throw that in there every week. Because fuck the Jets. They're an embarrassment to professional sports franchises.
So, anyway.
Yeah.
I guess that's it, though.
I think that is it. I think we've covered all the bases.
Wait. I think there's something left to do.
Hello, Curtis Axel. Hello, Brainless One. What can I do for you, sir? Well, Brainless One, I have to ask. Do you know what today is? I do know what today is. Today is May 10th. Yes, it is. And do you know what the significance behind May 10th is? I have no idea. What is the significance behind May 10th? Well, Brainless One, today, May 10th of 2024, at an astonishing 3,393 days, I, Evan Marks, Hall of Fame, is still alive in the 2015 Royal Rumble. Next year's Royal Rumble is going to be great when it's like for 10 years, a whole decade, I'm still alive. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
Then I could do the Ty Dillinger afterwards. So for episode 359 of everyone's favorite wrestling podcast, the Ever Marks.
I'm Jay. He is.
I'm definitely brainless. And I am the brainless one. Make sure you mark out
with your guac out. See you, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in.
We'll see you next week.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Come on, Hulk Hogan. Keep opening your mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah?